Chapter 738. Acquired Item. Clear Water Pearl, Immortal Level Magic Weapon. Special. Clear Water Pearl, Water Attribute Magic Weapon. It does not have combat ability, but it can increase affinity with water elements. Lu Chen was puzzled. That fish gave him an immortal level magic weapon? This thing did not have any attribute bonus, but it could increase affinity with water elements. He did not know what affinity with water elements was used for. If I have a water element attack in the future, will it increase my attack power? Lu Chen could not figure out the effect of this pearl. Boss, do you want to try it? Lu Chen nodded, put on the clear water pearl, and walked towards the lake. However, as soon as he took a step, he sank into the water. Coming out of the water, Lu Chen shook his head. At least this proves that this pearl will not make me lie on the water. The specific effect of the clear water pearl was still unknown, but there was no limit to the number of places it could be used. Lu Chen wore it first, and he would know its effect sooner or later. This fishing experience made Lu Chen understand one thing. In the fifth heaven, there was a very small chance of catching dragon necropolis monsters, and some of the monsters here already had spiritual intelligence. Dragon-type monsters were definitely not the simple monsters he encountered before. This kind of world is more like a Xianxia world. Lu Chen sighed. Fortunately, in the next few days, Lu Chen did not meet little golden carp again. He lived a leisurely life by the lake, fishing, cooking, picking herbs. There were still 6 or 7 days before the Heavenly Lake Convention. Lu Chen saw that it was about time, so he packed up his things and left the nameless lake with Little Green and the rest. Not long after Lu Chen and the rest left, a golden light rose from the lake, and a little carp poked its head out of the lake, looking at the backs of the group of people with a lonely expression. Benefactor, why do you have the aura of ancient demon blood in your body? Are you an ancient demon? No wonder your war soul is so strong. But no matter who you are Little Golden Carp's benefactor since you let me go. I hope we can meet again. Little Golden Carp will cultivate well. 6 days later, Lu Chen reached the foot of the holy mountain. Compared to the Azure Dragon Gate, the sacred mountain was much taller. Looking up, one could only see half of the mountain hidden in the clouds. The mountain was huge, and its surroundings stretched for dozens of miles. In comparison, the Azure Dragon School was like a small mountain. At this moment, a large number of cultivators had already gathered in the county town at the foot of the mountain. They all had badges with stars on their chests. Lu Chen noticed that among the people who came here, there were actually cultivators of the cultivator realm, which should be the next level of cultivator. Most of these practitioners had introverted eyes. They were not young and had extraordinary bearings. They might be the core members of the major sections. They would often bring a few young people with them. These young people were all in the prime of their lives. The men were handsome, and the women were like flowers in full bloom. Damn, so many handsome men and beautiful women. Are all youths in the 5th celestial layer so good-looking? Lu Chen felt a little guilty. With his looks, he was afraid that he would be a hindrance to the overall attractiveness of the 5th heaven. Lu Chen's lonely fishing was not elegant in appearance at all. After all, it was a fashion used for fishing. It completely looked like a laborer. Speaking of which, along the way from the forest, there were also many villages around the sacred mountain. However, looking at the villagers, they seemed to be living and working in peace. They were not as miserable as the hunting dragon village. Maybe not every sect will treat the surrounding people like that. Lu Chen breathed a sigh of relief. Waiter, give us 2 heaven room, a young man said to Lu Chen. Lu Chen was speechless. The inn's waiter was busy somewhere, and there was a group of people waiting in front of the counter. And this group of people who just came actually thought that he was the inn's waiter? Esteemed guest, there are no more heavenly guest rooms. Lu Chen purposely blocked the position in front of his chest, and said respectfully, no more. Yes, as you can see, our side is full of customers. Then, what about earth room or man room? No more. Tisk, why didn't you say so earlier? You made us wait for so long. The people in front of Lu Chen did not suspect Lu Chen's identity at all. Once they heard Lu Chen's words, they immediately scattered like birds and beasts. In an instant, only Lu Chen was left in front of the counter. Coincidentally, at this time, the waiter came out to greet the customers. Immortals, sorry for the long wait. The inn is really too busy, and we are a little understaffed. We just brought the customers to the rooms. There are still 4 heaven room here. Where are the immortals going? The waiter was confused. Why did the people who were waiting here suddenly leave? There are still 4 rooms, right? Give me 2. In front of the counter, a plain-looking person suddenly said. 2 rooms, right? Okay, 1 day is 3 spirit stones. How many days do you want to stay? The waiter did not dare to neglect this person. After all, he also had an immortal badge on his chest. How many days will the Heavenly Lake Convention last? Luchin asked. Immortal, the Heavenly Lake Convention usually lasts for a long time. However, this year might be more lively. Most immortals book 10 days. Okay, then I also want 10 days. A mere 60 spirit stones was nothing to Luchin. He quickly paid the spirit stones. Hey, aren't you a waiter? Why are you like this? We were in front just now. A commotion came from behind. Luchin turned around and smiled sinisterly. I didn't say I was a waiter. If you want to believe me, there's nothing I can do. You rascal. You're despicable. How can there be such a shameless person? It's fine if you're ugly, but your heart is so dirty. Which sect are you from? I'll go and talk to your sect leader. Luchin did not care about them and walked up the stairs. Which sect? He was just a rogue cultivator. What was there to be afraid of? There were 2 heavenly rooms. Luchin, Rhubarb, and Little Hairball had 1 room. Luchin also arranged 1 room for Xiaomin and Little Green. If there was any trade fair, Little Green, and the rest could continue to buy medicinal ingredients. The next day, the Heavenly Lake Convention officially began. Luchin saw many people coming out of the inn and walking towards the sacred mountain early in the morning. Luchin quickly joined the group. At the foot of the sacred mountain, there were people checking the invitation tokens. From the attitude of the welcoming disciples, the status of the Grand Ascension token seemed to be very low. Those who had the Grand Ascension token were mostly let through perfunctorily. However, they were especially enthusiastic towards those who had the Grand Ascension token. There were even disciples who personally led the way. In addition, there were also VIP tokens, and special tokens. However, these had nothing to do with Luchin. He was mainly here to see the world. It was fine as long as he could enter. Grand Ascension token, why is there only 1 of you? The disciples of Heavenly Mountain looked at Luchin strangely. Also, you came to the Heavenly Lake Convention, and you're dressed like this? Luchin shrugged his shoulders. In our sect, I'm already the most presentable. Anyway, since you're here, our Heavenly Lake welcomes you. Please come up the mountain. Chapter 739. Entering the sacred mountain. There was a stone tablet at the foot of the mountain that wrote, although the path of Shu is difficult, the path of immortality is even more dangerous. Looking up, there were no stone steps here, only steep mountain walls. At this time, there were already people struggling to move forward on the mountain walls. Luchin frowned slightly. This formalism is too obvious. He spread his wings and flew. As a birdman with the bloodline of victory, Luchin soared into the sky, passing countless people who were struggling to climb, and reached the mountainside in 10 minutes. A group of people stared at the figure that flew past them, their faces full of shock. Isn't the sacred mountain prohibited the use of flying mounts? Isn't that a mount? Ooh, who is this? Why does he have wings? A foreign race? Impossible, the sacred mountain won't invite foreign races. But he can actually fly. This is too much. Luchin's wings were dropped by a level 1 blood demon. Although it wasn't particularly precious, even at level 4, Luchin had never seen anyone else with wings. Powerful races disdained a pair of wings that had no attributes and were almost useless in battle. They started to train their battle soul from level 1. Those who were weak couldn't defeat the blood demon at the beginning of the server, which led to wings being extremely rare. Luchin landed halfway up the mountain. There was a rest area here, and the host provided food and water for the guests. After that, there was a flight of stairs, with hundreds of stairs leading to the majestic hall at the top of the mountain. Looking over, One could see that there were clouds and mist lingering there, giving it a celestial feel. The Azure Dragon clan can't be compared to this place, it's a lot worse. Lu Chen sighed. Is this a real immortal cultivation sect? It has a bit of style. Climbing up the stairs, Lu Chen realized that what he saw below was actually just the tip of the iceberg. The majestic building was just the entrance to the sacred mountain Heavenly Lake. Entering the main entrance, there were buildings with architectural styles similar to ancient buildings. Scripture Hall, Martial Arts Field, Book Pavilion, Sword Pavilion, 5 Grains Hall, and the Disciple Dongting, where the disciples lived. Wow, the scale of the sacred mountain Heavenly Lake is so big. At this time, there was an endless stream of guests coming up the mountain. The disciples of the Holy Mountain were in charge of receiving these guests. A pretty girl saw Lu Chen and walked up with a smile on her face. Fellow immortal, I see that this is your first time coming to our sacred mountain. Let me take you to the Heavenly Lake. This girl didn't dislike Lu Chen's shabby clothes, which made Lu Chen have a good impression of her. He smiled and said, Okay, thank you for the trouble. Being called Immortal Big Sister, Little Big Sister couldn't help but laugh. Why are you speaking so glibly? What immortal big sister? Aren't we all immortal friends? Lu Chen smiled. Immortal cultivators aren't necessarily friends. Yes, you're right. Everyone pursues a different great Tao. As the saying goes, those who walk different paths cannot work together. How about this? My name is Ingli. We're about the same age, and you're also a 7-star. You're a rogue cultivator? The emblem of a 7-star cultivator and a 7-star rogue cultivator was almost the same. Previously, the disciples didn't notice that Lu Chen was a rogue cultivator. Or rather, most of them subconsciously looked at the 7-star emblem and didn't look at the words behind it. It was rare to see a 7-star cultivator who hadn't joined a sect. Lu Chen smiled and said, Yes, but I also received your invitation token. Lu Chen took out his token and showed it to Ingli. After all, Ingli wasn't a welcoming disciple at the entrance. She was just a disciple who led the way inside. Since the other party had a token, even if he was a welcoming disciple, she naturally wouldn't care. It's okay. Since you have a token, I'll treat everyone equally. How should I address you? Nameless. Nameless. Okay, I'll take you up. On the way, Lu Chen looked at the handsome men and beautiful women around him. He felt that there was an indescribable atmosphere in the air. It was probably the feeling of love. Little Big Sister Ingli, what kind of event is the Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting? What's the competition about? Don't you know? Oh, that's right. After all, you don't have a sect. The Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting is actually a competition of the body's potential talent. In the 5th heaven, the battle soul is indeed powerful. However, in the long run, the battle soul is only a part of the body's strength. The one who truly cultivates immortality is still our body. The competition will be relatively easy. Everyone can go on stage at will. As long as you complete the test within 5 days, it will be fine. Lu Chen blinked his eyes. He had never seen such an easy competition before. What kind of test? How do you test a person's potential talent? Ingli said patiently, Potential talent has nothing to do with 1-star level. 1-star level can be seen from the badge. Basically, there's no need for a test. As for potential, it depends on one's comprehension and battle talent. The test is divided into 3 parts. The first part is the elemental test. Under the situation where the soul and body as one is not suitable, you have to use the elemental techniques that you're good at. Whoever attracts more elemental spirits will have greater potential. The second part is the occupation test. There are 9 main occupations, and a total of 54 branches. Every occupation has its own specialties. Our test will test the potential of up to 6 different occupations. Moreover, although these 6 occupations are random, the differences will definitely be huge. For example, if you're riding a sword and you have to use close combat techniques for pugilists, how would you perform? How would you perform if you used magic attacks? How would you perform if you used assassination techniques? This combination will not only reveal a person's most primitive ability, but also their battle talent. For the third part, If you enter this test, it means that your results in the first 2 tests are very good. There's hope for you to enter the final 3. This test is the only real combat stage. This stage is also the best way to show a person's overall strength. Of course, the real combat I'm talking about is not a real combat with martial arts. It's another form of real combat. Another form of real combat? Yes, the day-chasing competition. What's that? You don't even know about the day-chasing competition? Are you sure you're here to participate in the Heavenly Lake Convention? Alright, since there's still a long way to go, I'll tell you about it. The day-chasing competition is about a rare dragon-type demon beast. This type of demon beast is very small, probably smaller than your fist. However, its speed and reaction are extremely fast. During the competition, everyone will be in their own team, and will be in a special area. In this area, everyone's attributes will be the same. Moreover, every minute, 3 different occupations martial arts, and 3 different elemental attacks will be randomly disabled. The day-chasing competition is to see who can catch the sun-chasing beast first, and not let it be snatched away by others for a minute. In the past, the competition was very intense. Not only was it difficult to catch the sun-chasing beast, even if one was lucky enough to catch it, it would be very hard to maintain it, because the others would definitely do their best to fight for it. The first 3 people to snatch the sun-chasing beast will enter the final 3, and have the qualifications to bathe in the Heavenly Lake. Alright, during this year's Heavenly Lake meeting, our junior sister Yin Ling, senior brother Huang Xian, and other experts with extremely outstanding potential will compete with all of you. However, they won't be counted in your rankings. You can be at ease about this. Lu Chen slightly frowned. This test is quite interesting. Chapter 740. Ingli was quite enthusiastic. After introducing the Heavenly Lake pageant, she said, "Actually, it doesn't matter if you can bathe in the Heavenly Lake or not. Since I came to the Heavenly Lake, there has been a Heavenly Lake pageant every year. Every time, there will be people who get the chance to bathe in the Heavenly Lake. However, no one has improved. The other sects are attached to our sacred mountain. They hope that their outstanding disciples can become immortal companions with our sacred mountain's disciples to strengthen the relationship between both sides. So the Heavenly Lake pageant has changed. You should have noticed it. It's more like a blind date pageant now." Lu Chen couldn't help but gasp. The Heavenly Lake pageant had become a blind date pageant? No wonder everyone was dressed so conspicuously. Everyone paid extra attention to their appearance. Apart from having a high star level, the most important thing was that they were all very good-looking. On the other hand, he had come to the blind date conference in such a sloppy manner while he was fishing alone. "Sigh, nameless. I feel that even though you have an ordinary appearance, you're actually quite pleasing to the eye. Furthermore, you're a very interesting person. I feel that conversing with you is like chatting with a fellow disciple," Ingli suddenly said. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He didn't know what Ingli was trying to say. "If you like any senior or junior sister, I will introduce you." Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. "Thank you for your good intentions. However, I am more interested in the Heavenly Lake." Oh, Ingli dragged her voice. She looked at Lu Chen, as if she could see through everything. "So, you have a special feeling for junior sister Yin Ling, right?" "Yin Ling? Hey, don't be embarrassed. Junior sister Yin Ling is the apple of our sect leader's eye. She has an illustrious status. Her strength and potential are second to none in the sect. Moreover, her looks, temperament, and figure are 1 in a million. The number of people who like her can go all the way to the 6th heaven." Lu Chen felt wronged. He really didn't know what kind of person Yin Ling was. Ingli didn't give Lu Chen a chance to explain. The 2 of them had already arrived at the Heavenly Lake Plaza. After some rearrangements, the Heavenly Lake Plaza was already packed with people. Generally, the guests were mainly gathered in a few areas. Elemental testing area, cultivation method testing area. Under the shade of a tree, beside a bench, speaking of which, the women sitting there were all dressed up meticulously. They were quite charming, and Lu Chen was dazzled by them. Unfortunately, these beauties ignored Lu Chen as soon as they saw him. Lu Chen's current image had dragged down the average appearance of the entire Heavenly Lake pageant. Which sister have you taken a fancy to? Ingli asked curiously. Women were all so fond of gossip. No. By the way, missingly, aren't you going on a blind date? Me? Ingli's face instantly turned red. I'm not qualified enough. Although 6-star cultivators can participate in the Heavenly Lake meeting, most of the people who come are elites from sections. At the very least, they would take a fancy to 8 or 9-star senior sisters. Lu Chun laughed. It's just a date. What's there to look at? I just think you're beautiful. Don't tease me, Ingli said shyly. She quickly changed the topic. By the way, the day pursuit competition hasn't started yet. It will only be held on the last day. Nameless, you can go and test the other 2 items first. Lu Chun nodded. To him, the other items were more attractive than the beauties around him. However, there were too many people at the 2 testing areas. Although there were a few testing areas, they were all completely surrounded. There were people testing, relatives and friends, and there were also people who were just here to watch the fun. In short, it was impossible to squeeze in. It's a pity that you have a token. Otherwise you could cut in line, Ingli said. In the Jiutian, every detail reflected the idea of the strong being respected. Lu Chun didn't mind. It's fine. Don't we just have to complete the test in 4 days? Ingli, why don't you take me to the Heavenly Lake? Yes, sure. The 2 of them left the most crowded area and headed to the Heavenly Lake. The peak of the Heavenly Lake was like the crater of a volcano. However, the crater of the volcano was filled with lake water. Lu Chun originally thought that the Heavenly Lake was just a small pond. He didn't expect the Heavenly Lake to be as big as a lake. There were also some visitors around the Heavenly Lake. However, the area was very big, so there were only a few people. This is the Heavenly Lake? Yes. Be careful and don't fall in. Unless the Heavenly Lake is open, if you fall in, even the disciples of the Holy Mountain will be injured by the protective array. Lu Chun nodded. However, even though he was standing on the shore, Lu Chun could feel the abundant spiritual energy rushing towards him. It was indeed the spiritual source of a level 5 sect. Compared to the spiritual source of the Heavenly Lake, his army's spiritual source was like the light of a firefly. Your spiritual energy should increase very quickly if you cultivate in a place like this, right? Normally, how many points of spiritual energy can you increase in a minute? Just as Lu Chun finished speaking, Ingli couldn't help but giggle. Nameless, this is the first time I've heard of how many points of spiritual energy can be increased in a minute. The spiritual energy here is indeed abundant. This is the foundation of our holy mountain. However, even so, it's impossible to increase a few points of spiritual energy in a minute. At most, it's just how much pure spiritual energy can be increased. Lu Chun then realized that he had let it slip. Not everyone had the mixed divine demon cultivation method. For most people, the increase in spiritual energy from spiritual pills was still measured in pure spiritual energy. Okay. Oh right, how long can I bathe in one time? Is there a time limit? It depends on your reaction. There is indeed a powerful spiritual source under the Heavenly Lake. However, the Heavenly Lake's water is different. Even if you bathe in the Heavenly Lake, the effect might be similar to cultivating in the Cultivation Heart Palace. However, I've heard that a few people who bathe in the Heavenly Lake can improve very quickly. Under such circumstances, we won't interrupt their cultivation. However, at least I haven't met such a person since I've been here for a long time. Lu Chun nodded. He was not sure whether he could absorb the spiritual energy of the Heavenly Lake's water. This thing could only depend on fate. After visiting the Heavenly Lake, Lu Chun went down the mountain and returned to the inn on the same day. On the 2nd day, the 3rd day, and the 4th day, he wandered in the town at the foot of the mountain. He wanted to see if Tao Tao had withdrawn any coupons from the immortal trading area. Obviously, it was basically impossible to find the withdrawal coupons in the town near the Holy Mountain. Because even if there were, they would be bought by the Holy Mountain. Lu Chun didn't return to the Holy Mountain until the last day of the test period. Ingli found Lu Chun, who went up the mountain leisurely. She ran to him hurriedly. Why didn't you come up these days? Have you finished the test? Even if you don't have any hope, you should at least have a try. This kind of test opportunity is also good for your future development. Lu Chen nodded. I'm here now. You see, there are no people in the test points. I don't need to line up at all. Yes, you don't need to line up, because the statistical results will come out soon. Oh, why are you still so leisurely? It's really the case that the eunuch is anxious. Come on, I'll take you to the test. Chapter 741. Senior brother, there's one more person who hasn't been tested yet. Ingli shouted anxiously to the disciple in charge of the elemental testing. It's Ingli. Huh. She hasn't been tested yet? The disciple of the sacred sect felt strange. We've already submitted the results for the same level. Everyone is waiting for the results. Senior brother, please help me. This guy is here for the first time. He's a rogue cultivator, so no one informed him. Rogue cultivator? Alright. Hurry up. The disciple reactivated the array for Ingli's sake. Lu Chen was pushed into the testing area by Ingli. Now almost everyone was waiting for the final result in the distance. There were only a few people here and there. Why is there still someone taking the test? He's only taking the test now. Is he holding a level 4 token? He's actually a 7-star rogue cultivator? He's 7-star and hasn't joined a sect? I don't think there's anything to see. 7-star is low to begin with, and there's no support from the sect. He's probably here to test himself. These people stood outside the testing area curiously, watching the commotion while waiting for the results. Lu Chen stood in the open-air testing area, and Ingli's senior brother walked over. Hey kid, there are a total of 22 stones around. Each stone has its own elemental attribute. Attack whichever element you're good at. There's an elemental spirit in the stone. According to the elemental potential of your attack, the elemental spirit in the stone will be awakened. We'll calculate the awakening ratio and use it as your final result. Lu Chen asked curiously, Senior brother, may I know what elemental potential is? You don't even know elemental potential? Sai, you should join a sect. The sect will talk about these things. The senior brother had a good temper. Although he was a little impatient, he still explained it for Ingli's sake. You know that many techniques can change elemental types, right? Lu Chen nodded. Of course he knew this. There are many elemental enhancement materials in the fifth heaven. For example, the fire god fist can convert 80% of one's spiritual power attack into fire elemental attack. However, when combined with a fire stone, it can increase the fire elemental attack by another 20%. Before the fourth level, everyone's Vulcan's fist's elemental conversion rate is the same. But after that it's different. Some people can achieve 200% fire elemental attack, while others can only achieve 150%. This is a person's elemental potential. Our test is to test your elemental potential. Elemental spirits are very sensitive, so you don't have to worry. We can test your elemental potential, which is the upper limit of your elemental attacks in the future. During the test, try to use the skill with the lowest attack power among the elements you're good at. This is a test of potential, not attack power. It has nothing to do with the attack power of the move. Lu Chen nodded in confusion. He understood most of what senior brother said. In short, he would use the elemental attacks he was good at, and then the elemental fairy would judge whose elemental potential was higher. But the question was, what element did Lu Chen want to test? He had 3 types of pure elemental attacks. One was lightning, and the other was darkness. They were the elemental conversion abilities of Shenlu and Mo Lu respectively. The other was the ability of the Primordial Heart Sutra, a chaotic type of attack. In addition, the 9 dragon pillars contain 9 types of elements. However, those were the elemental attacks of the 9 dragons. He did not know if it would affect his results. What element was he good at? Obviously, the chaotic type of attack should be the strongest. However, after looking around, Lu Chen did not find the chaotic element testing stone. Big brother, hurry up. There's not much time left. Ingli urged from outside. She was even more anxious than Lu Chen. Lu Chen shook his head. In the end, he decided to test the lightning element. At least he did not need to enter Mo Lu's state. That state was now very famous. The white-haired figure, when he massacred the Green Dragon sect. Lightning element attack type change. Lu Chen changed his elemental attribute. His right arm began to crackle with electric charges. Since the power of the skill would not affect the results of the test, Lu Chen's current attacks had all been changed to lightning element attacks. The one with the lowest attack power was obviously a normal attack. Anyway, Shen Lu's elemental conversion was to change all attacks into lightning element attacks. It did not target a specific skill. After some preparation, Lu Chen punched the lightning element testing stone. No way, that idiot is using a normal attack. This guy doesn't even know about elemental testing. After talking for so long, he said to test with the element he's good at. In the end, he used a normal attack. His IQ is indeed very low. He's an unorthodox cultivator. He's definitely different from us decent people. After Lu Chen punched, he waited for 3 seconds. Yingli's eyes widened. She really wanted to see the results of Lu Chen's elemental testing. However, why was there no reaction from the lightning element testing stone? It can't be. He can't even awaken an elemental spirit? Yingli was worried for Lu Chen. This guy can't be an insulator. An insulator was a person who could not resonate with any element. They were very rare, even rarer than those geniuses. If that was the case, Nameless would become a laughingstock in the entire fifth heaven in the future. Yingli suddenly felt very guilty. No wonder that guy was unwilling to take the test. He was an elemental insulator. Why didn't you tell me? If you had told me, I wouldn't have let you take the test. Yingli looked sadly at the dumbfounded guy in the field. As expected, there was a huge commotion among the few onlookers. An insulator. He's an elemental insulator. I finally know why he's a 7-star unorthodox cultivator. Which sect would accept such a piece of trash? He's an insulator. Ha 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 ha, I actually saw an elemental insulator. Don't you know whether you have elemental potential or not? You clearly know that you're an elemental insulator, yet you still came out to embarrass yourself? There's something wrong with your brain. I guess he was confused by the smoke spirit and wanted to bathe in the heavenly lake with a beauty. So he threw caution to the wind. What an idiot. Lu Chen was puzzled. The elemental insulators they were talking about were probably people who had no elemental potential. However, did he really have no elemental potential? He couldn't be so unlucky. After waiting for 10 seconds, the lightning element testing stone still did not react. Senior brother shook his head. What a waste of time. Alright, you can leave now. I'm going to close the spell formation. I'll report your results to the higher-ups. Lu Chen did not say anything else and left the testing area. The onlookers kept pointing at him and whispering among themselves. Kid, you're the first elemental insulator I've seen. What an eye-opener. Others are here to test whether they're prodigies or not. You're here to test whether you're a piece of trash. Ha ha ha, interesting. You've reached the end of your journey. The fifth heaven is your final destination. Yingli walked in front of Lu Chen and did not even dare to look at Lu Chen. Why didn't you say that you were an elemental insulator? Lu Chen shook his head. I didn't know that before. I'm sorry. If I didn't keep dragging you along. It's okay. I was going to take the test anyway. So what if I'm an insulator? Lu Chen had an indifferent expression. Alright, bring me to the next test. You still want to take the test? Yingli's eyes widened as she looked at Lu Chen in shock. Chapter 742. Lu Chen and Yingli were about to leave when a series of strong vibrations came from behind them. What's going on? Everyone looked at the elemental testing area in surprise. The vibrations were coming from there. Soon, the 22 elemental testing stones all emitted a strong light. Metal, wood, water, fire, wind, rain, thunder, lightning. Light spots of various colors flew out from the 22 elemental stones and circled the area. There were hundreds of light spots in total, illuminating the area with brilliant colors like an illusion. These are elemental spirits. Why are so many elemental spirits suddenly running out? Fuck, how many elemental spirits are there? There are hundreds of them. Did something happen when the elemental spirit summoning array was turned off? These spirits seem to be looking for something. Damn. If anyone can summon so many elemental spirits during the elemental testing, that would be unbelievable. It's impossible for anyone to summon so many elemental spirits at the same time. Let's not talk about numbers. The elements reinforce and counteract each other. If you're good at the fire element, you can't be good at the water element. If no one can summon all the elemental spirits, there must be a problem with the array. Soon, dozens of Holy Mountain disciples rushed over from afar. They hurriedly helped the person in charge to check the array. It looked like they were going to turn it off by force. In the distance, in the resting area of the square where the results were announced, the powerful cultivators stood up one after another. Even they had noticed the abnormality here. Yuhua, what's wrong with the elemental summoning array? An old man sat on the main seat of the rostrum and narrowed his eyes slightly. Sect Master, there might be some malfunction. It seems that the elemental spirits in the elemental stones were summoned abnormally. I've already gone to check it out. Abnormally summoned? The old man frowned slightly. The elemental summoning array has been in use for hundreds of years, and there has never been a problem. I saw someone over there testing just now. Could it be caused by his testing? Sect Master, I've asked around. All 22 elemental stones are abnormal. It's possible if there are 5 or 6 elements, or even 7 or 8. But to say there are 22, that's impossible. Yes, Grandpa. A beautiful woman stood behind Sect Master Yinshuan. This young woman had long hair that flowed down like a waterfall, fine features, and a pair of clear and dazzling eyes. She was like an elegant snow lotus that was silently blooming, and she was like a celestial maiden that was otherworldly and pure. Even if it was the Skypon meeting that was called the blind date meeting, where countless beauties vied for beauty, she would instantly become the center of attention even if she just stood there. Speaking of this woman's appearance, she was definitely one of the top beauties in the fourth heaven. Just by looking at her appearance, this woman gave people a feeling that she could only be admired from afar and not touched. She called the sect master of the Holy Mountain Yin Sun grandfather, so she was naturally the rumored Yin Ling. I can only activate 7 types of elemental spirits. How can someone activate all of them? Yin Ling said angrily, with an unconcealable arrogance. Although our Heavenly Lake's elemental formation doesn't dare to claim that it contains all the elements, but among the 22 elements, there are several pairs of elements that counter each other. It's impossible for anyone to summon an all-elemental spirit. Grandpa, although there won't be any problems with the elemental summoning formation, since the formation is controlled by someone, it's inevitable that there will be negligence. A handsome man beside Yin Ling snorted and said, Junior Marshal Sister Yin Ling is right. Moreover, from the number of elemental spirits summoned, they are very powerful. How can there be someone who can summon an all-elemental spirit and maintain such a high elemental potential? Yin Sun wasn't completely convinced by these people. He narrowed his eyes slightly and called his personal disciple. Yuan, go check on the young man who was tested just now. Yes, Master. Not long after, Yuan Yin returned and reported. Master, he's a cultivator from the 7 Stars Wilderness. The result of the elemental test is Elemental Isolator. The elders of the Holy Mountain were surprised. Elemental Isolator? That means he didn't trigger any elemental spirits within 15 seconds. Senior Martial Brother Sect Master, I think you're paying attention to the wrong person. As far as I know, when an elemental isolator appears, the elemental formation will compensate. Whenever an elemental isolator appears, the elemental summoning formation will always have a temporary abnormality. This explains the accident just now. Yin Sun was still frowning. Was it really an illusion? Sigh. By the way, Yuan, what's the result of his class test? Master, he hasn't taken the test yet. Ingli said he just came to take the test today. Actually, I don't think his result will be too good. Elemental isolator in every classes. Yuan Yin didn't need to continue. The proportion of the elements in the 5th heaven was even higher. Elemental isolators wouldn't do too well. At this moment, a disciple walked to the rostrum and asked Yin Sun for instructions. Uncle Master Sect Master, my master wants me to ask you if you want to announce the final result now? It's about time. This disciple was Elder Xian's disciple. Elder Xian was in charge of announcing the test results. Yin Sun frowned slightly. After a moment of contemplation, he said, "In the past, when no one took the test, it was fine for us to announce the results a moment earlier. However, since there are still people taking the test this time, we'll follow the normal procedure. There's still some time now. Tell Junior Marshal Brother Xian to wait a little longer." "Yes, Uncle Master Sect Master. I'll go back and tell Master now." Yen Sun thought for a moment and stood up. "Since the results haven't been announced yet, I can go and see this young man, who didn't even bother to take the test until the last moment." Everyone widened their eyes and looked at the sect master in disbelief. The Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting had been held for many years. The sect master had almost never seen the younger generation take the test. He didn't even go to Yinling and Huang Xian's test. However, he suddenly went to see a stranger take the test today, and it was an elemental isolator test. In the vocational cultivation technique testing area. According to the rules, Lu Chen had to choose a set of 6 vocational cultivation techniques. He had to complete a series of attacks in a short period of time. The requirement was to fuse the skills of these 6 professions and fully display the strengths of each profession. His opponents were 6 puppets of different professions. These vocational skill books were skills that could be learned by all professions. Their levels weren't high, but they didn't need to be too high. It was a test. The main thing was to see if the tester could perfectly fuse the skills of the various professions. When using the skills of the various professions, the skills displayed were all manifestations of the tester's combat potential. Lu Chen had just tested the elements. He got something called Elemental Isolator. It seemed to be about the same as getting a 0. However, Lu Chen was still quite confident in this vocational test. Just as he was about to draw the cultivation technique set, he suddenly realized that a large group of people had rushed over. What's the meaning of this? Lu Chen was a little confused. Why did so many people suddenly come over? They were fighting to be the first to see a rogue cultivator like him take the test. Don't tell me they know my identity. Lu Chen felt a little guilty. Chapter 743. Is this the elemental insulator? He looks so ordinary, but he suddenly became the center of attention. Even though I'm so handsome, there aren't so many people watching my test. So what? If it wasn't for the sect leader of the Holy Mountain, who would come to watch this kind of rubbish test, I think his results are probably the worst. The surrounding people discussed without any scruples. Lu Chen was relieved when he heard this. Fortunately, they didn't come because of his identity. Lu Chen had not yet started to draw the cultivation method when an old man walked in front of Lu Chen, under the watchful eyes of everyone. "Hello, young man. Welcome to the Holy Mountain Heavenly Lake." Lu Chen looked at the old man. This person gave people the impression that he was very generous, and he spoke very politely to him. The most important thing was the badge on his chest. 7-star cultivator. 1 level higher than him. It could be estimated that a 9-star cultivator's spiritual energy should be around 9,000 points. After becoming a cultivator, the spiritual energy requirement for each level would definitely be higher. A 7-star cultivator's spiritual energy might be around 20,000 points. In fact, this kind of spiritual energy was not that far away from the spiritual energy of an ordinary person's war soul. "Young man, I'm the sect leader of the Holy Mountain. Do you know the result of the elemental test just now?" Yen Sun said. Lu Chen shook his head. "Hello, sect leader Yen. It seems to be an elemental insulator. Don't you feel anything? I mean, when you use elemental attacks, have you never compared them with others?" Yen Sun's eyes were filled with expectation. The Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting had been held for so many years, but now it had turned into a blind date. This was naturally not what he wanted to see, or rather, this was not what he wanted to see the most. The blind date could indeed consolidate the position of the Holy Mountain Heavenly Lake. The foundation of marriage could allow the Holy Mountain to maintain inextricable ties with the other sections. However, what he wanted more was to find top talents. After seeing Lu Chen, Yen Sun felt that this young man was somewhat different. He didn't seem to mind that he was an elemental insulator. Could it be that he knew that the result of the test was wrong? As long as Lu Chun could prove that his elemental attacks were stronger than others, he could arrange another test. Unfortunately, Lu Chun only shook his head. I don't know either. Lu Chun really didn't know what his elemental potential was. Not to mention that the elements he was good at were all rare elements. The key was that he didn't even know that elemental attacks could be strengthened in the fifth heaven. Without any elemental enhancement materials, he didn't know to what extent he could break through. Upon hearing Lu Chen's reply, Seeker was a little disappointed. Perhaps it was because he was too eager to find a top-notch genius. Actually, when he thought about it carefully, was there really such a person with full elemental affinity? That probability was much lower than that of an elemental insulator. If that's the case, young man, don't be discouraged. As far as I know, there are people who can break through the limits of the human body and reach a very powerful realm through continuous cultivation, the old man said with a smile. Lu Chen nodded. Thank you for your encouragement, Sect Master. Take the test well then. Although you probably won't be able to enter the top 20, since you're here, take it as a test for yourself. Lu Chen didn't comment on the importance of participation. He suddenly asked, Senior Sect Master, may I ask, what kind of results do I have to achieve to enter the top 20? Upon hearing this, there was a sudden burst of ridicule from the crowd. Ha ha ha, what a joke. This person actually wants to enter the top 20? The previous test showed that he was an elemental insulator. Doesn't he know whether he can enter the top 20 or not? He's playing to the gallery. I think it's because he noticed that so many beauties are looking at him. So he's deliberately saying that to make others think that he's not that useless. Paying attention to him? We're just watching a monkey's performance. Look at how shabbily dressed he is. A beauty said on behalf of the many female onlookers. Seeker was also stunned for a moment, but since there was still a glimmer of hope in the other party's heart, he couldn't be too harsh. This cough. This year's gathering of talents may be higher than in previous years. Because the overall results of the two tests are required to determine the ranking, you may have to defeat 2 puppets to have a chance of entering the top 20 and participating in the final test, the day pursuit competition. Defeat 2 puppets. The surrounding people immediately exclaimed. It's already very difficult to defeat 1 puppet with a skill that he's not familiar with. Only Yanling, Huang Xian, and a few other top super geniuses can do this. It should be about the same. He scored almost 0 in the previous tests, so his score in this test will definitely be twice as high as the average person. Elemental insulators are all trash. How strong can they be in actual combat? He should give up now. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Just now, Seeker Smoke said that it was possible to enter the top 20, but it still wasn't safe. It seemed that he had to defeat at least 3 puppets. After encouraging Lu Chen with a few words, Seeker Smoke walked out of the testing area. Lu Chen began to enter the segment of drawing skills for his class. For Lu Chen, it didn't matter what class it was, so he casually drew a scroll. When he opened the scroll, there were a total of 6 battle skills. The Prophet's first advancement job, Elementalist's low-level skill Magic Bullet. The Pugilist's low-level skill Melee Flurry Dance. The Beast Tamer's low-level skill Earthbind Trap. The Pugilist's second advancement job, God's Descendant Archer's low-level skill, Rain of Flame Arrows. The Sword Spirit's first advancement job, Sword Rider's low-level skill Spirit Venom. After the 6 skills were displayed, there was a burst of discussion. It's a bit tragic. It's already not bad if he can last for 5 minutes with this skill. He doesn't even have a single HP recovery skill. How can he defeat the puppets? Haha, all the skills that scumbags get are trash. The Poison Master's ultimate skill is actually Spirit Venom. This skill is useless against the puppets. Sigh boring. Let's see if he can last for 5 minutes. When Ingli saw these skills, her eyebrows were knitted together. What kind of lousy skill is this? There's no HP recovery in a long battle. And there's no burst power to end the battle quickly. There are 2 stronger skills, Rain of Arrows and Spirit Venom. One is continuous damage, and the other makes the puppets immune to poison. There's also the most useless trap. It's over. Nameless, your luck is too bad. Even Smoke Seeker was shaking her head. It seemed that she had been overthinking things. Only Lucian had nothing to do with his surroundings. He lowered his head and grasped the 3 minutes to learn the skills. He studied the descriptions of each skill. No one understood this principle better than Lucian. Every skill had its own value. Just like Tiger descends the mountain, Earth-splitting chasm, Great Ravine, and Great Ravine sweep. Until now, Lucian had been using some low-level skills. He would not look down on any low-level skills. As long as the right combination was used, even the weakest skill could display unexpected power. Lucian did not have a profession until now. In other words, he could be in all profession. Close combat, ranged combat, HP recovery, continuous damage. Lucian was an expert in all kinds of combat situations. What he needed to do now was to understand these low-level skills that were looked down upon by others. Chapter 744. Magic Bullet, a long-range attack. Shoots 3 magic bullets with spiritual force. The power is very weak. After hitting, there will be a small explosion effect. Other than that, there are no other special effects. The only thing special about it is that the cooldown time is very fast. It can be recovered once every 5 seconds. Magic Bullet can last for up to 3 minutes. Lucian narrowed his eyes slightly. This is very important. Melee Chaotic Dance, a low-level skill. It adds a little defense and causes a small range of physical attacks with a knockback effect. In addition, within 10 seconds after using Melee Chaotic Dance, there will be a 5% lifesteal effect on all attacks. This skill has more special effects, but it is not strong by itself. It needs to be combined with other strong skills to be effective. Earthbind Trap binds all enemies in the area for 10 seconds and causes continuous damage of natural elements. The damage is very low, but the enemy's movement speed is greatly reduced. 20 seconds cooldown time. 2 seconds to set up the trap. Sword from all directions and Rain Arrow are both AoE attacks. Rain Arrow's strength lies in its high damage and considerable continuous fire damage, instant cast. But the biggest disadvantage of Rain Arrow is that there is a 3-second delay after the skill is used. When Rain Arrow is used to fire a rain of arrows at the target area, the arrows will only land on the target area after 3 seconds. It is another prediction skill, and it needs 3 seconds to predict. Mind Poison is actually quite strong. It causes continuous poison damage to the enemy and causes a negative status effect, reducing the enemy's attack by 40% for 2 seconds. These are all low-level skills. Naturally, their power cannot be compared to Lucian's 3000 Body Flicker Slash, Bestowment Liberation, Void Shattering, 8 Desolation, Universal Annihilation, etc. These skills are quite strong. Lucian can't help but praise with a nod of satisfaction. 3 minutes to learn the skills. The preparation time is soon up. The Holy Gate disciple in charge of this place sent over a long sword and a longbow. Both weapons are ordinary dark gold weapons, used for 8 directions sword controlling and Rain Arrow. 6 human-shaped puppets walked out from behind the door and surrounded Lucian. In the class test, only these 6 skills can be used. This also means that Lucian's bloodline will be completely disabled. Little Furball can't help him, or else it will be against the rules. The countdown to the test began. 3. Before the match began, Lucian had already set up a Earthbind Trap beneath his feet. This was allowed by the test. Of course, it wasn't as if the puppet couldn't see the trap laid out in front of it, so it naturally wouldn't walk into the trap. 2-1. Begin. The moment the test began, the 6 puppets simultaneously pounced on Lucian. Of the 6 puppets, 2 were long-range and 4 were close combat. Lucian's eyes widened as he rushed towards the 2 long-range puppets. Yeah, kill the ranged players first. That's the right idea. However, if that's the case, the trap he set up in advance won't work. It doesn't matter who we attack first. He can't possibly kill the puppet. Even if I use these 6 skills, I can only kill one at most, let alone a piece of trash like him, Huang Xian said disdainfully. At this moment Lucian used a skill, Magic Bullet. While running, the 3 magic bullets flew 3 to 4 meters away from the 2 puppets. Damn. That's a bit ridiculous. Is he fighting against flying mounts? All long-range skills need to be predicted. This guy is clearly a close combat class, so he won't use such skills. This is also my first time using a long-range skill. In any case, I missed by a bit. This guy, he's so crooked. He's really weak. On the battlefield, no one had any movement skills. Lu Chen quickly moved, and once again used magic bullets. However, Lu Chen's magic bullets all missed. Ha ha ha. This guy is really funny. Even if he's stupid, he should have at least hit him once. But in the end, all of them missed. It looks very intense. Those who don't understand the truth would think that this guy is very powerful. In fact, he didn't even hit a fart. Yanling shook her head. This guy, doesn't he have any fighting potential? If he doesn't know how to use long-range skills, why don't he use close combat? There are idiots every year, but there are a lot of them this year. Huang Xian's face was still full of disdain. I don't know why Master came to watch his match. Now that you've seen it, you can leave. It's simply polluting your eyes. The test went on for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. As long as Lu Chen found that the magic bullets were on cooldown, he would quickly use them. At this time, he had used a total of 32 magic bullets, a total of 96 bullets. However, all 6 puppets were at full health. At this time, Lu Chen found a good position and arrived in front of the 2 long-range puppets. Close combat chaotic dance. Almost 3 minutes after the start of the match, Lu Chen finally hit the puppet. This was the first time in the past tests. He finally did some damage. My God, I'm so moved that I'm about to cry. Look, that guy is constantly pushing the long-range shooter towards the trap. He should be trying to push the long-range shooter into the trap. But what's the use? He's a long-range shooter. He should just stand there and attack. Pushing the melee shooter is the correct choice. That's right, the melee shooter's speed reduction is the key. It seems that not only does he not know how to use long-range skills, his fighting strategy is also completely wrong. However, Lu Chen naturally didn't care about the discussions around him. The continuous close combat chaotic dance pushed the 2 long-range shooters into the earthbind trap. At the same time, the 4 close combat puppets chased after him. This time, Lu Chen didn't move. He didn't have any intention of dodging the 4 close combat puppets. Smoke Seeker suddenly frowned. The puppets' attacks weren't too strong, but the average person wouldn't be able to withstand the simultaneous attacks of 6 puppets. This guy actually stood in the trap and didn't move? That trap doesn't have a strong crowd control effect. It only slows him down. Does he want to die by standing there? Looks like he's given up. Let's just give up and start the day chasing competition. That's the main event. Who wants to watch such a boring thing? Seeing the 4 close combat puppets rushing over, Lu Chen shot dozens of arrows into the sky. Rain of flame arrows. The 4 puppets entered the trap's range. Their movement speed was greatly reduced, and they also suffered elemental damage. However, the damage was too low. Although the slowing effect was obvious, Lu Chen still stood there without moving. In the end, he was quickly surrounded. The 4 close combat puppets had already raised their arms and launched a joint attack on Lu Chen. The 2 long-range shooters were also beside him, ready to attack. It's over. Yingli didn't dare to watch anymore. She actually had a good impression of Lu Chen. This guy didn't put on airs at all. She always had a good time chatting with him. Previously, she had already detected that he had an elemental insulator. This time, he was going to be heavily injured by the puppets. This was something that Yingli didn't want to see. However, at this moment, Lu Chen suddenly roared, "Mind poison!" The puppets were immune to poison attacks, but their damage was still reduced by 40%. Sword of 8 directions. Lu Chen's longsword suddenly shot out. It transformed into 8 swords and pierced toward the center. At the same time, a bright red color appeared above Lu Chen's head. The rain of arrows was coming. Around them, a large number of magic bullets circled around and suddenly shot toward the trap in groups. The scene was so spectacular that it left everyone dumbfounded. Lu Chen stood in the middle of the trap and smiled slightly. This time I should be able to enter the top 20. Chapter 745. Boom, 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 boom. A series of explosions exploded within the earthbind trap. Swords of 8 directions stabbed back from 8 directions. Rain of flame arrows plunged the earthbind trap into a sea of fire. And the most terrifying thing was that 96 magic bullets launched a fierce attack within the trap. The magic bullets only had a very small range of explosive damage, not even an AoE attack. However, because Lu Chen gathered all the puppets together, the magic bullets unleashed a terrifying power. This Smoke Spirit was dumbfounded, shocked by the scene in front of her, that she could not say a word for a long time. Huang Xian, who was on the side, was petrified. The crowd that had been chattering around before could only watch in shock. The look in everyone's eyes could only be described as inconceivable. Ingli originally could not bear to see Nameless make a fool of himself, but the scene in front of her was beyond everyone's expectations. Not long after, all 6 puppets fell to the ground stiffly. 6 puppets, all defeated within 3 minutes. Not a single one was spared. Seeker Smoke's eyes widened. What kind of calculation is this, to be able to achieve this level? The several holy mountain elders beside him were also shocked as they looked at the young man in the test field. His HP was still full. My God, to be able to fuse 6 skills to this extent, I can't believe it. Everything seems to be in his calculations. When he first rushed to the ranged puppets, he had already thought of defeating all 6 puppets. No, it should be that before the test began, when he was setting up the trap, he had already thought of how to fight in his mind. That's just too terrifying. Seeker Smoke recalled Lu Chen's battle just now and suddenly exclaimed. In the beginning, his magic bullets did not miss. He took full advantage of the fact that the magic bullets could exist for a long time and deliberately missed. In fact, he had already placed the landing point in the earthbind trap early on. The power of the magic bullets is not great, but he is too patient, accumulating a total of 96 magic bullets. When the duration of the magic bullets was close to the limit, he began to make his move. Melee Flurry has a repelling effect. He pushed the ranged puppets into the trap, and the melee puppets naturally chased after him. At this time, he continuously launched attack skills. I can imagine that even if he is surrounded, with the lifesteal effect of Flurry and the massive amount of attacks, he can definitely guarantee his own survival. That's right, there's also the Mind Poison. Although it doesn't cause any damage, he used this skill at the most crucial point. Damage reduction. It will further increase my chances of survival. Oh my God, I have never seen such an exciting battle. He simply brought out the characteristics of all the skills to the extreme, and used them extremely skillfully. Close combat, ranged combat, setting up traps in advance, buffing and dealing with the enemy's abnormal status. Every single one of them is used in the most critical areas. The most important thing is that he carried out his plan almost flawlessly. The positioning of the long-ranged attacks was incomparably precise. The cutting position of the melee fighter, the movement of the dodging pursuit. There was not the slightest bit of unnecessary movement in the entire process. The timing was calculated to an unbelievable degree, and he didn't even receive much damage. Yanling looked at her grandfather in shock. Her grandfather's face was full of excitement. She hadn't seen it for many years. There were tens of millions of disciples in the Holy Mountain, and the number of geniuses who were married to disciples of the Holy Mountain was also innumerable. Even her and senior brother Huang Xian, who had made great progress, had never seen her grandfather so excited. He didn't just admire, he even had some respect, worship. This was a treatment she had never enjoyed before. But this guy was able to receive such high praise from her grandfather. She looked at the young man in the arena again. He was wearing some kind of tattered clothing, and his appearance was average, but his face had an unbearable arrogance. In fact, Lu Chen's face didn't have any ripples, but in Yanling's eyes, he had clearly done such an amazing thing, yet he was so calm. That was unbearable. Lu Chen clearly felt that the surrounding audience had quieted down. This was also good, otherwise it would be too noisy. He looked at the puppets around him, they should all be dead. He didn't know why no one came up to tell him. Cough cough. Does this count as the end of the test? Lu Chen looked around blankly, only to see a frozen face. Hey! At least someone come and tell me the results. Ingli, does this count as the end of the test? Or do I have to wait for 5 minutes before the results are out? Ingli was startled when Lu Chen suddenly called out her name. She suddenly became the focus of the audience. That freak seemed to be very familiar with Ingli. Was he her friend? What was even more outrageous was that even the sect master, a large group of elders, hall masters, Yan Ling, and Huang Xian were looking at her in surprise. She usually knew these big shots, they didn't know her. She suddenly became very nervous. Brother Nameless, it's already over. You've already defeated the puppets. What else could it be? Senior brother, please announce the results. A holy mountain disciple stood outside the testing area in a daze. He had been in charge of the vocational cultivation method testing area for several years, but he had never seen such an exaggerated battle, so he was completely dumbfounded. At this moment, he was called out by Ingli, and he hurriedly ran into the testing area. Standing in front of the young man, the senior brother secretly glanced at Lu Chen's eyes, and it just so happened that Lu Chen was also looking at him. The senior brother trembled. If he met this guy in actual combat, would he have a chance of winning? Thinking of this, the senior brother couldn't help but sweat the size of beans on his forehead. Even if he was a 9-star cultivator and the opponent was only a 7-star cultivator, in front of such an exquisite design, a calm mind and perfect attack coordination, he seemed to have no chance of winning. Friend, I can't have gotten a 0 in this test, right? Lu Chen asked cautiously. This guy seemed to be a bit absent-minded. Don't tell me something went wrong. What 0? Only now did everyone realize that this battle maniac was actually an elemental insulator. In the elemental test, he should have gotten a 0 just now. Oh, it can't be. Cough cough, you only used 3 minutes and 7 seconds to defeat all 6 puppets. Although everyone saw the test results, when someone personally announced Lu Chen's results, the scene still exploded. 3 minutes and 7 seconds? 6 puppets? I'm afraid I'm not dreaming. Isn't this too strong? I've never heard of anyone being able to reach this level. Even Yan Ling and Huang Xian were able to defeat 2 puppets within 5 minutes. Compared to this monster, the difference between them is not just a little bit. My god, this guy is a bit too strong. After Lu Chen heard the results, he finally let out a sigh of relief. He just happened to see Yan Sun, so he walked over. Senior Sect Master, this time I can enter the top 20, right? Yan Sun, the head of the Heavenly Lake sect, who was always calm and steady, nodded his head like he was counting beads. Of course. Not to mention the top 20, your results in this round on average are enough to win this Heavenly Lake conference. Chapter 746. Yan Ling, Huang Xian, and the others were astonished. Just one result, and he had directly won the Heavenly Lake Conference. This was unprecedented. Facing such an honor, Lu Chen did not have much of a reaction. He thanked them and went to find Ingli. Nameless brother. Ingli was overwhelmed by the favor. The way she looked at Lu Chen changed. She felt that he had suddenly become much more handsome. Ingli, I'm a bit hungry. Is there anything to eat over there? Yes. I have a disciple token. I can get a 30% discount. The results are about to be announced. I'll go buy some for you. What do you want to eat? Then I'll have to trouble you. Bring some meat and vegetables. Buy more. Buy 100 jin. I have some friends who want to eat. I'll keep some with me. I'll give you some spirit stones when I come back. He was a wild cultivator, so it was necessary to have more spirit stones with him. However, this detail made many core members of the sect remember that this guy was a wild cultivator. He did not belong to a sect. Little brother, I am the great elder of the Void Dust sect. May I ask if you are interested in joining my Void Dust sect? An old man took the initiative to invite Lu Chen. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He was just having a meal, and he was being targeted? Hello, I am the sect leader of the Storm sect. I see that little brother's talent is extraordinary. It's just that you are still a wild cultivator. It seems that you haven't met a sect that you like. I wonder if little brother is interested in visiting my Storm sect. I guarantee that you won't be disappointed. Ha 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 ha, little friend, sect leader Li Elder Huang. Someone laughed a few times and immediately attracted Lu Chen's attention. Little friend, the more I look at you, the more I like you. You and I are fated. My Heavenly Dipper sect specializes in body techniques. Sigh, my sect's disciples are all like you who are not good at cultivating the elements. However, we have specially researched many tools to make up for our lack of elemental potential. I think you might be interested in our Heavenly Dipper sect. All of a sudden, Lu Chun was surrounded by many sect leaders and elders, so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Yen Sun, who was watching from afar, was extremely anxious. He was the host, and the holy mountain had a high status. He couldn't just go up and snatch people away like the other leaders. He hurriedly said to his disciples, "Quick, quick, let Elder Xian announce the results, and let everyone wait for the results." On the other side, Lu Chun was vexed. Why did this group of people suddenly become so enthusiastic? They didn't even care about the disciples he brought with him, and kept squeezing to his side. Don't you see that those disciples are looking at me with eyes full of hatred and enmity? It makes me feel a little embarrassed. At this moment, someone from the sacred mountain shouted loudly that the final results were out. Everyone was invited to wait in front of the Zhuangyuan ranking board. Only then did Lu Chen feel as if he had been pardoned. He hurriedly used this as an excuse to get rid of these sect leaders. Elder Xian of the Holy Mountain was announcing the results in front of the Zhuangyuan rankings. Without any suspense, Nameless won first place with a total of 140 points. Next was Holy Mountain's Smoke Spirit with 110 points. Holy Mountain's Royal Pavilion with 110 points, followed by 100 points, 90 points, 43 RD place. Snow Forest Sect's Zhan Feng with 65 points. There are 23 Sacred Mountain disciples on the list. The top 20 will participate in the day chasing competition. The remaining 20 will participate in the day chasing competition. There are 40 people in total. Elder Xian finished his announcement. Lu Chen nodded slightly. The Sacred Mountain's strength was still very strong. Out of the 43 people on the list, the Sacred Mountain had 23 people, which was more than the other sects combined. In the day chasing competition, the Sacred Mountain had to make sure that the other sects had 20 people. The Sacred Mountain had to cut off 3 people. These 3 people were clearly not the last 3 people. It was clear that the Sacred Mountain's strength was outstanding. At this moment, the others were discussing Lu Chen's results in low voices. 140 points. A puppet is 20 points. How can he have 140 points? That's because of the time bonus. He killed 6 puppets in a little over 3 minutes. Oh, I see. But he doesn't feel much better than the others. Just now, we were all stunned by his test. But thinking about it carefully, a cultivator needs to develop in all aspects. Elemental ability is an important ability for a cultivator. Its importance goes without saying. No matter how strong his occupational cultivation technique is, he's just an elemental insulator. That's right. I can't stand his arrogance. Our sect master personally invited him to join the sect, but he actually refused. We gave him face, but he didn't want it. The sect master and elders were also momentarily blinded. Potential depends on overall strength. The elemental test is more important, okay? That's right. I've always felt that there's something wrong with the occupational cultivation technique test. Who would use the cultivation techniques of so many other occupations? In actual combat, everyone uses their own occupational skills. How can this kind of test be compared to the elemental test? That's something that can be used at any time. Yan Ling and Huang Xian glanced at each other. The two of them had boasted before the Heavenly Lake Convention that they would definitely take the top 2 places. In the end, the most valuable first place was actually snatched away by someone else. Junior sister Yan Ling, don't be anxious. In the day chasing competition, see how I'll deal with him. Huang Xian said unhappily. Just now he only drew a good skill. In the day chasing competition, it'll be the time to truly compete with our strength. At that time, he'll know the difference between us. In the Heavenly Lake Convention, the 2 tests are just preparations for the day chasing competition. The next test is the main event. Yanling nodded heavily. She didn't think too much about it. She just couldn't accept it. The list of names had already been confirmed. The competition would begin in an hour and a half. There was still plenty of time. Ingli bought a large amount of food back. However, it wasn't expensive. It was settled with a few spirit stones. Lu Chen wanted to give the food to Rhubarb, Little Green and Xiaomin. It didn't matter if Little Green and Xiaomin didn't eat. However, Lu Chen was used to eating with them. Rhubarb had to eat. As for Little Furball, that fellow didn't eat cooked food. It would find its own food. There was no need to care about it. Lu Chen called out Rhubarb, Little Green and Xiaomin. This time he didn't call them. There were too many people. Ingli, you eat some too, Lu Chen said. Ingli shook her head. She sat across from Lu Chen and supported her chin with her hands as she watched Lu Chen eat. Big brother Nameless, I'm not hungry. You can eat. You really don't want to eat. Hehe, our holy mountain's guiding disciples can't accept gifts from guests. That includes food. Don't worry about it. I'm really not hungry. Lu Chen looked around. Many of the guiding disciples were actually standing to the side. This was probably the holy mountain's rule to entertain guests. Hey, big brother Nameless, why haven't you joined a sect yet? With your combat ability, even if you don't have any elemental potential, there should be people fighting over you. Ingli asked curiously. I'm used to being alone. Moreover, there's no sect that I'm interested in. Lu Chen tore a large piece of meat and gave it to Rhubarb. This fellow's strength hadn't increased, but his appetite was getting more and more exaggerated. Oh, I see. Then what do you think of our holy sect? Lu Chen raised his head and smiled at Ingli. Did your sect leader ask you to say that? Ingli stuck out her tongue. Nameless was too smart. She had just asked a few questions, and it was so subtle. Yet he had already guessed it. Lu Chen wasn't angry. Ingli was just a disciple. Naturally, she had to follow the sect leader's instructions. I'm most likely not going to join a sect. Why? Because I won't stop. After Lu Chen finished speaking, he lowered his head and concentrated on eating. Chapter 747. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Lu Chen sat on a bench in the pavilion to rest, casually chatting with Ingli. Lu Chen suddenly asked, how does the sacred mountain treat the people at the foot of the mountain? People? Oh, you're talking about those ordinary people. The sacred mountain has always focused on long-term development. They provide us with food, and there are also people who help us grow ordinary herbs. In return, we guarantee that they will not be attacked by demons. Lu Chen frowned slightly. I also noticed that the people around you are living quite well, much better than some sections. Ingli nodded. Some sects do not treat the people as humans. In the immortal cultivation world, basically no one cares about this. People only care about strength, so the immortal cultivation world is actually very chaotic. As long as they don't mess around in the immortal cultivation world, most sects will still accept them. Lu Chen roughly guessed that this was the case. Otherwise, the Green Dragon sect would not have received an invitation. Perhaps this was also the reason why he was unwilling to join a sect. Although he was not a saint, he was far from being selfless. However, when he saw those lowly people being wantonly slaughtered, he still could not stand it. Sometimes these people would remind him of his compatriots on Earth, or his past self. Oh right, Ingli, do you know where to buy cash withdrawal scrolls? Lu Chen changed to a less serious question. This is a bit hard to say. Cash withdrawal scrolls are the most precious items in the immortal cultivation world. So most shops do not sell them. Only a few people who are in urgent need of money will sell some. So if you want to buy one, it all depends on luck. Then other than the sects, is there no other place to buy cash withdrawal scrolls? But where did those sects get them from? Ingli explained, this is actually very simple. The cash withdrawal scrolls are used to strengthen the physical body, or increase spiritual power. How to strengthen the physical body? Of course, it is strengthened with spiritual power. Both of these are inseparable from spiritual power. Lu Chen listened seriously. This matter was related to his development. So cash withdrawal scrolls are essentially a small number of super experts among talisman array masters, who cultivate both talisman arrays and talisman array masters. They seal a huge amount of spiritual power in a miniature talisman array paper. Currently, there are only a few forces that have such super experts. Almost all of these forces, without exception, have established countries. Country. Yes, we are in the Eastern Peak Nation. The Eastern Peak Nation is mainly made up of humans, elves, dwarves, and 9 other races. Here we are mainly made up of humans. The strength of these countries is very terrifying. In fact, it's very simple. They have super experts who can make cash extraction scrolls. It's hard not to be strong. Lu Chen nodded. This was similar to having a money printing machine at home. Aren't those people's attributes the highest? Lu Chen asked curiously. That's not necessarily the case. Making a cash extraction scroll is very time-consuming and laborious. Moreover, it requires a large amount of pure spiritual energy. This can only be done by manpower mining the mineral veins. So it's not that simple to make a cash extraction scroll. In addition, everyone has an upper limit to their abilities, which is the fighting soul attribute. Of course, the royal family's strength is still very terrifying. There's no doubt about that. It's just that it's not as exaggerated as you say. Lu Chen pondered. So the strongest in the 5th heaven were the royal families. This was a little different from the immortal cultivation world that he had previously understood. The royal families here were not living off women. After many years of accumulation, their strength was unimaginable. Then where is the Tong Tian Tower here? It's at the top of the Heaven Range Mountain. Ingli said. There are magical beast nests there. The magical beasts can't be killed. Even the royal families have to go up the mountain in groups. Lu Chen frowned. Even the royal families have to go up the mountain in groups? If that's the case, his strength might not be able to reach the 6th heaven. To pass through the magical beast nests, an hour of soul-body unification might not even be enough. In other words, it would be best for him to increase the strength of his body to a high enough level before going to the Tong Tian Tower. Forget it. This was a game that could lead to death. It was better to play it for a while. Oh, one more question. Ingli, do you know how to return to your own world? You don't even know this? Doesn't your family know? Or is there no one in your original force at the 5th heaven? Ingli finally could not help but ask in shock. Family? Lu Yi was still cultivating at the 4th heaven. As for the original force, those fellows on Earth had only just come into contact with the 4th heaven. It would be strange if they knew. On the other hand, those so-called guides might be Earthlings. However, they were always mysterious. Other than guiding Earthlings in their cultivation, they did not seem to be willing to reveal any more information. Li Muhua said that their identities could not be confirmed even now. Therefore, Lu Chen could only rely on himself to figure everything out. This no one told me. Ingli shook her head. What kind of background does your family have? You're already at the 5th heaven. Yet they're not worried about letting you go on an adventure alone, and not telling you anything. Actually, every country has many teleportation points. You can return to your own world by spending spirit stones. Doesn't that mean I can also go to other people's worlds? Theoretically you can. However, you must first know the coordinates of that world. Zit coordinates? Lu Chen was a little flustered. In fact, he did not know the coordinates of Earth. Did this mean that he was going to be lost in the vast sea of stars? Oh, you don't have to worry. Everyone has the coordinates of their own world. However, you have to be careful. If they are not especially trustworthy friends, or if you have absolute confidence in controlling them, do not bring them to your world. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Of course, Lu Chen knew how serious the consequences would be, especially in a remote low-level martial arts world like Earth. A single expert could turn Earth upside down. Speaking of which, when the Flame Demon and Cowherd said that they would bring him to the demon world, Lu Chen did not think much of it. However, he now understood that they said that because they completely trusted him. As expected, a 5th heaven could return to reality from the Jiutian. That meant that if Lu Yi really liked Beishue Gufei, it was indeed possible. After chatting with Ingli for a while, Lu Chen gained a lot. He solved a few problems that had been troubling him. He also gained a better understanding of the 5th heaven. At this moment, a man and a woman walked over from the opposite side. Both of them were extremely beautiful. Senior brother Huang Xian, junior sister Yan Ling. When Yingli saw the two of them, she hurriedly stood up and greeted them respectfully. The two of them did not look at Yingli. Instead, they walked directly in front of Lu Chen. Huang Xian glanced at Lu Chen indifferently. His eyes were filled with disdain. However, he said, "Nameless, congratulations on getting first place." Lu Chen frowned slightly. This person's words were sour. "Thank you," Lu Chen casually replied. Seeing Lu Chen's disrespectful attitude, Huang Xian's face completely fell. "However, Nameless, don't think that you will definitely win the day-chasing competition. I will let you know the difference between you and me in the day-chasing competition. The day-chasing competition is the true test of a person's overall strength. Junior sister and I will make it so that you won't even be able to touch the day-chasing beast." Yan Ling glared at Lu Chen and fiercely said, "I don't believe that you are stronger than me." Lu Chen curled his lips. "Oh, then, you guys can do it." As he spoke, Lu Chen even clenched his fist and made a cheering gesture. Yingli, who was at the side, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This guy, facing the opponent's provocation, actually told them to do it. Chapter 748. When Huang Xian and Yan Ling heard Lu Chen's words, they forcefully swallowed back the lines they had thought of. "You!" Huang Xian almost choked to death. He was so angry that his face turned red, but he didn't know what to say. They were cheering for him. How could he refute? "Alright, don't be arrogant. We'll see." On the way back, Yan Ling angrily said to her senior brother Huang Xian, "That nameless guy is just a scoundrel." Huang Xian was full of anger. "He's not even as good as a scoundrel. He didn't play by the rules. I didn't know how to refute him. His looks are average, but he's especially annoying." Yan Ling angrily said, "He actually told me to cheer for him. He's clearly looking down on us. He thinks that we're not his match." "Junior sister, don't worry. I'll talk to my senior and junior brothers. When the time comes, we'll go against him together." "Ah, senior brother, if we go against him, isn't that bad?" He didn't expect Yan Ling to oppose this idea. "I want to win against that guy fair and square. Besides, if my grandfather finds out, he definitely won't let us off easily." "Junior sister, who does he think he is? Master just made a mistake. Could it be that he'll punish us for him? You don't have to worry about this. When the time comes, you can compete normally. I just want to teach that arrogant bastard a lesson." Huang Xian and Yan Ling walked away. Yingli's expression was a bit unnatural. On one side was her senior and junior sister. On the other side was her big brother Nameless. Both sides obviously didn't get along. Her situation was indeed a bit awkward. At this moment, Lu Chen took the initiative to speak. "Yingli, you don't have to accompany me in a bit. Otherwise, they might make things difficult for you in the future." Yingli looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Nameless was actually thinking for her. Since the end of the professional cultivation method test, many senior and junior sisters had asked her about her big brother Nameless. Many gorgeously dressed beauties kept throwing flirtatious glances at him. However, her big brother Nameless didn't seem to be interested in women. He didn't even look at them. She didn't expect her big brother Nameless to have such a meticulous side. He was able to observe such minute details. "He seems to treat me differently. Brother Nameless, I'll go with you." Yingli seemed to have made a huge decision as she said, "I'm fulfilling my duty as a guide, and no one can say anything about me. As for you, I'm afraid that senior brothers and the others will target you." Lu Chen smiled. "So be it. It's just a competition of 40 people. It's not like it's worth 4 million. This? Yingli was shocked. Judging from Brother Nameless' words, it sounded like he had fought 4 million people before. In fact, what Lu Chen said was already a conservative figure. Along the way, he had done a lot of things that cost millions. Otherwise, how could he set the rules for the 3rd layer of heaven and 4th layer of heaven? There were billions of people in those 2 heavens. Yingli was also a girl with a temper. She stood firmly on Lu Chen's side, which made Lu Chen very pleased. Lu Chen smiled. "As expected of my nameless friend. Friend. Ingli lowered her head embarrassedly. I'm a little weak. Ha 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 ha. I don't make friends based on their strength. The most important thing is that they are like-minded. Let's go, it's starting over there. Watch me catch that sun-chasing beast. The last event took up a huge area. While everyone was resting, the disciples of the Sacred Gate cleared all the facilities in the Heavenly Lake Plaza. The entire Heavenly Lake Plaza only had the sun-chasing competition. It was a circular track with a mountain in the center. The Heavenly Lake was on top of the mountain, and one could imagine how long the track was from the scale of the Heavenly Lake. Although everyone is familiar with it, I still have to announce the rules. Elder Xian personally said to the 40 contestants. The track is 10,000 meters long and 200 meters wide. There are fences at the edge. As you can see, going out of the fences is against the rules. I have to emphasize that no matter if you go out by yourself, or if you are beaten out, you will be eliminated immediately. When the competition starts, I will release this sun-chasing beast. Elder Xian lifted the iron cage in his hand. Lu Chen saw a small golden creature in the cage. This creature was about the size of a fist. Its body was slender like a large insect, and there were 8 pairs of thin transparent wings on its back. For such a small creature to have 8 pairs of wings, its speed was probably not something the insects on Earth could compare to. After the sun-chasing beast is captured, it will release a small amount of spiritual energy explosion to disrupt the spirit energy of the person who captured it. It will also unleash its potential, and its power is enough to carry a person away. It will only surrender after 1 minute of being captured. At that time, it will be considered a successful capture. In this competition, the disciples of the Sacred Mountain will not be ranked. If they manage to capture the sun-chasing beast, they will not occupy the quota. They will only take the top 3 from the other sections. The winner will be given the opportunity to bathe in the Heavenly Lake. Of course, if they perform well, they will naturally be favored by the disciples of the opposite sex, greatly increasing the chances of them becoming immortal companions. At this point, the other disciples were extremely excited. As long as I get into the top 3, I can ask Master to come to the Sacred Mountain to propose marriage to my sweetheart. Mimi, wait for me. This time, even if I have to risk my life, I will perform well. I must get into the top 3. Brother Huang Xian, you must see me. Lu Chen frowned. This group of people, were they so desperate just to find an immortal companion? Was he the only one who wanted to bathe in the Heavenly Lake? Lonely, too lonely. There is no limit to the number of laps in the sun-chasing beast. The sun-chasing beast will instinctively run around the track. We have also set up a formation, so it can only run clockwise. In addition, there is the Heavenly Lake domain. Every minute, the cultivation techniques of 3 occupations and 3 elemental attacks will be randomly banned. Alright, everyone get ready. The competition is about to start. Lu Chen looked around. Many people had drawn their weapons. It seemed that the competition would be very intense. Unintentionally, Lu Chen saw that many disciples of the Sacred Mountain were secretly observing him. This group of people were not looking at others, but at him. It seemed that it would be fun later. Elder Xian pressed the door bolt of the iron cage with one hand. Everyone was ready to start running at any time. Get ready. As soon as Elder Xian spoke, everyone became nervous. Ingli clasped her hands in front of her chest. Her breathing was a little hurried. Brother Nameless, do your best. Yen Sun narrowed her eyes slightly. If I'm not wrong, there should be many people targeting Nameless. I wonder if that young man can withstand such pressure. At this moment, Elder Xian lifted the door bolt of the iron cage with one hand. In an instant, a golden light flashed and rushed forward. Start. Following Elder Xian's command, 40 top geniuses used their movement techniques. Only shadows were left on the field, and a disciple of the Sacred Mountain with a face full of blood. This guy covered his nose, and his face was full of shock and confusion. Oh Hua, what's wrong with you? Elder Xian looked at this disciple in surprise. Hee. Elder Xian, someone hit me just now. The disciple complained in grief. Nameless, he hit me at the start. The audience around the starting line was silent. That guy, he hit me at the starting line. This guy is too sinister. Chapter 749. Generally speaking, the Sun Chaser competition would only start when competing for the Sun Chaser beast. However, Lu Chen had taken the initiative to attack a holy mountain disciple. Many people found this action inconceivable. Isn't he afraid of being targeted by others? A sect elder shook his head. Attacking at the starting line will make him enemies too early. Moreover, he could have chosen anyone, but he chose a holy mountain disciple. Doesn't he know that we holy mountain disciples have an absolute advantage in the Sun Chaser competition? Sect Master Bai Hen of the Heavenly Dipper sect frowned. Although the Sun Chaser competition is based on each person, and everyone is an opponent, this kid is too naive. There are 20 holy mountain disciples, half of the total number. If he attacked during the competition for the Sun Chaser beast, it would be excusable. But attacking at the start will definitely draw the ire of the holy mountain disciples. This kid did indeed make our eyes shine during the cultivation method test, but he seems to be too young and impetuous. He doesn't know that showing off his ability will often make him a target. Haven't many geniuses been defeated because they showed off too much? That's right. Being excellent in the cultivation method test doesn't mean that his combat strength is far stronger than others. His final score is only 20 to 30 points higher than Misty Spirit and Huang Xian's. Opposing the Holy Mountain disciples at the start of the competition, he's very likely to be eliminated this time. Mistseeker frowned slightly. This young man usually looked aloof from worldly affairs, but she didn't expect him to be so decisive and fierce when he attacked. He was simply a completely different person from his usual gentle image. Sect Master, don't you think this nameless is a bit too impatient? Elder Xian walked over. He knew that his senior brother thought highly of this young man, but the scene just now seemed to be a little disappointing. It looks like his sneak attack succeeded, but in fact, stopping a holy mountain disciple at the bottom of the rankings isn't a big deal. In this kind of free-for-all competition, we can't even be sure whether Ohua will be a threat to us. Not only is his attack useless, but he'll also make enemies too early and expose himself. Mistseeker said indifferently, Junior Brother Xian, in the past Sun Chaser competitions, if we were to calculate the ranking of our Holy Mountain disciples, wouldn't the first two places always go to our Holy Mountain disciples? Xianzhang nodded without much thought. Indeed, if we were to calculate the ranking of the disciples of the Holy Mountain, unless the other sects produced extremely outstanding talents, we would have taken the top 5. Seeking Smoke said, it is indeed easier for us to recruit the top talents of the fourth heaven. However, it is still understandable if they take the top 2, or even the top 3. However, it is the same every time. Furthermore, they always take the top 5. This can only mean one thing. In the Sun Chaser competition, even if they compete individually, the disciples of the sacred mountain will still help each other. This is not a rare thing. Elder Xian said, that's right. After all, we're all from the same sect. Furthermore, we're not included in the rankings, so no one will say anything. Seeking Mist smiled faintly. If that's the case, then that kid must be fighting for the first place since he attacked the disciples of the Holy Mountain. Competing for first place with us sacred mountain disciples? Yes. I've met a few geniuses from big sects, and without exception, they all have one thing in common. It was fine if he didn't do it, but if he did, he would definitely do it to the extreme. This kid seems to have this kind of temperament. In this kind of person's heart, it's not that he wants to compete with others, but rather that he wants to surpass himself again and again. In the long run, his heart can no longer tolerate the word second place. Moreover, I saw Huang Xian and Yin Ling looking for that kid before. Perhaps he already knew that the disciples of the sacred mountain would target him. In that case, making the first move to gain the upper hand is not a lack of consideration, but a preemptive strike. Elder Xian shook his head. Senior brother, I think you value this kid too much. Even your words are on his side. In my opinion, he is still too reckless. Junior brother, if you don't believe me, how about we make a bet? Although one of the two old men was the sect master, and the other was an elder. They were both direct disciples of the previous sect master. After being together for so many years, their stubborn tempers had risen. Alright, what are we betting on? Let's make a bet. Naturally, it's just for the sake of it. How about 2100-point cash withdrawal scrolls? Cash withdrawal scrolls were precious. Even the sect master and elder had to exchange for them with sect contributions. This casual bet was already worth 200,000 spirit stones. Alright, I'll bet with you. Lu Chen did not know that someone had specially opened a bet for him. He had already dealt with a sacred mountain disciple at the beginning. He clearly knew that others were targeting him. So why wait for others to make the first move? Wouldn't that be stupid? However, his actions immediately gave the sacred mountain disciples a reason to besiege him. Now he was surrounded by sacred mountain disciples. Nameless, you actually launched a sneak attack. Huang Xian was right beside him. The two of them were side by side, as they chased after the sun beast. Fighting was one thing, but at this time, the most important task was still to chase after the sun beast. Sneak attack? Do I need to make an appointment to fight you? Lu Chen sneered. The sun beast was very fast, but these people were not ordinary people. The attributes of 8-star and 9-star cultivators had long surpassed the level of ordinary people. After using some movement speed increasing skills, they could basically maintain the distance between them and the sun beast, and not be pulled apart. Lu Chen secretly calculated in his mind. These people were currently increasing their movement speed, so they would definitely use their movement speed skills at the end of the fight for the sun beast. However, no one wanted to take the lead, so for the time being, they would not be left behind. The current calm was definitely only temporary. In a moment, a fierce fight would definitely erupt. Lu Chen was currently using flash shot. He did not plan on using unlimited movement skills. Using the 6 transformations of demons and gods in a single sun beast competition, it was a bit like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. At this time, someone outside the formation shouted, "In the first minute, archers, golden Buddhas and elementalist skills are prohibited. Ice, wind and rock elements are prohibited." If the previous calm was due to the lack of an opportunity to make a move, then now was that opportunity. This was because some people were using their profession's movement speed increasing skills. Since it was suddenly prohibited, they naturally had to give it a try. Demonic phantom steps. An archer rushed out first. He was quite miserable. Previously, he had used wind shadow steps, which was a skill that used the wind element to increase his movement speed. Now that his profession's skills were prohibited, even the wind element was prohibited. If he did not give it a try, then he would be left far behind. Demonic phantom steps was not a skill exclusive to archers. He did not have many movement skills like this, so he had to give it a try. Golden lotus steps. Lion tiger roar. A golden Buddha fiercely rushed forward. At the same time, his body emitted a golden light, causing everyone around him to retreat. In the blink of an eye, 4 or 5 people had already made a move. Chapter 750. Several people quickly approached the sun-chasing beast. The sun-chasing beast sensed the danger behind it, and suddenly increased its speed. Raging flames burning river. A holy mountain disciple behind quickly acted, and a sea of fire quickly ignited in front of these people. The sea of fire directly blocked the entire track. It was 100 meters wide, and to cross this sea of fire, they had to sprint 100 meters. This was the time for the 8 immortals to cross the sea and show their abilities. The people in front of them had their skills banned, so they could only use their movement skills to force their way through the sea of fire. They all suffered different degrees of burns. The people behind them chased closely. Some used movement skills to cross the sea of fire, while others held their breath and maintained their distance. Fire Phoenix. A beast tamer summoned his battle pet and opened a path for himself. Imperial Sword Astral Form. Someone directly activated his astral form and became one with his sword, shooting out from above the sea of fire. Lu Chen was about to cross the sea of fire when a cold light suddenly shot out from behind him. "You stay here." Sacred Sword Judgment. Lu Chen looked back and saw a golden broadsword smashing towards him. It was extremely fast, and the air around the sword was actually ignited. The sword's tail was even dragging a trail of fire. Lu Chun was about to dodge when the ground under his feet suddenly became muddy. Want to run? Devouring Devil Swamp Prison. Another holy mountain disciple attacked. Lu Chun looked at his feet. At this moment, it had become a swamp. As long as he used his strength, he would only sink deeper and deeper. Earth Rock Beast. A large amount of magma suddenly burst out from the swamp, pouncing towards Lu Chun like a giant beast. It should be noted that the rock element was banned just now, which was a branch of the earth element. However, the other party was using magma, which was considered a fire element. Naturally, it would not be banned. Huang Xian, who was beside him, sneered. Going against our holy mountain, this is your fate. Still want to snatch the sun-chasing beast? Dream on. Let my junior brother take good care of you. Sorry, I'll go catch the sun-chasing beast first. Huang Xian and Yin Ling had already used their movement skills and flashed past Lu Chun, chasing after the people in front of them. Facing the siege of 3 people at the same time, Lu Chun coldly snorted. You want to stop me with just 3 people? What are you thinking? Spiritual space cannon. 3 cannons. He did not dodge at all. The 3 cannonballs blasted directly at the 3 holy mountain disciples who attacked him. So, you are a spiritual energy explosion expert. No wonder he was so arrogant. Little psionic energy cannon. Psionic explosion experts were not considered very outstanding within the 4th celestial layer. After all, among the various attributes of the war soul, spiritual energy was generally the lowest attribute, and there was a huge gap between it and the 3rd celestial layer. However, it was completely different in the 5th layer of heavens. In order to increase a cultivator's level, the only standard was spiritual energy. In other words, from the 5th layer onwards, spiritual energy had become the most important attribute. Without soul-body fusion, the psionic explosion specialist, who used spiritual energy as an attack, dealt damage in an instant. The spiritual energy space cannon's main characteristic was that it had no trajectory. The 3 of them knew the power of the spiritual energy space cannon, so they quickly used their movement techniques to dodge. Triple Gate. Lu Chun was not stingy with his skills. He immediately used Triple Door, allowing the spiritual energy cannon to change direction while moving. 3 gates and 3 spiritual energy cannons hit the target instantly. Boom! Boom! At the same time, Lu Chun roared, Ghostly shadows, descend! 300 Lu Chun suddenly appeared in the arena. Using Descend, Lu Chun dodged the opponent's attack and chased to the front again. This guy, the 3 of them couldn't hold him back, and he killed them instead? Elder Xian's eyes widened. The cooperation of the Holy Mountain disciples just now really shocked him. The 3 attacks were launched almost at the same time, and they were well coordinated. One was a control skill, and the other 2 were offensive skills. Even if Nameless could dodge, the 3 of them would definitely have other follow-up moves to greet him. No matter whether Nameless could get rid of the 3 of them, the final result would be that he would be left far behind by the rest of the team. In the end, this guy easily resolved the crisis. He used Triple Door and long-range spiritual energy cannons to defeat the 3 of them. At the same time, he used the most suitable displacement skill to dodge and catch up with the rest of the team. The fight for the sun-chasing beast in front was exciting, but Lu Chen's battle also attracted the attention of many people. This guy is so strong. 3 9-star cultivators working together can't hold him down. How much combat experience does he have? In the face of sudden changes, he can make the most appropriate response in the first place. His attacks are fast, accurate, and ruthless. He seriously injured the 3 of them, so that they can no longer hold him back. The 3 disciples of the Holy Mountain are already seriously injured. They probably won't be able to compete. It's not the first time I've seen someone use Triple Door, but it's the first time I've seen a teleportation spiritual energy cannon. His spiritual energy cannon has a displacement effect, and its trajectory is difficult to predict. With the Triple Door changing direction, it's impossible to dodge. Lu Chun was already at the front of the chase. At this time, Someone seemed to have caught the sun-chasing beast, but the beast had not been tamed yet. His whole body was carried by the sun-chasing beast, flying irregularly in the air. Behind him various skills were thrown. Within a few seconds, that person was hit and fell from the air. The sun-chasing beast regained its freedom and rushed forward desperately. At this time, Lu Chen noticed that almost all the disciples around him were disciples of the Holy Mountain. It seemed that in the chase just now, they had thought of ways to block the disciples of the other sects behind them. If this continued, the next time the sun-chasing beast was caught, the first place would be in the bag of the Holy Mountain. At this time, a beautiful figure suddenly emerged from among the disciples of the Holy Mountain. Yin Ling, 7 stars trapping beast. Her movement technique was somewhat different from the average person's. It was completely different from Lu Chen's 7-star steps. Her footwork coincided with the position of the Big Dipper. After stepping on the position of the 7 stars around the sun-chasing beast, the sun-chasing beast's speed suddenly dropped, but she could jump at will from the position of the 7 stars. Lu Chen frowned slightly. This movement technique was a bit strong. It could affect the opponent's speed. At the same time, when the 7 stars formation was set up, it upgraded from a displacement skill to a teleportation skill. In actual combat, once the position of the Big Dipper was set up, she would become abnormally agile. Sure enough, under the 7 stars trapping beast, Yin Ling caught the sun-chasing beast. Caught it! Yin Ling said excitedly. It's Yin Ling. Now she's being escorted by the disciples of the Holy Mountain. It looks like there's no doubt that she'll take first place. Fortunately, the disciples of the Holy Mountain are not counted in the rankings. The top 5 are theirs, so there's no need to fight for it. The key is the ranking after the 5th. No, that nameless is still in the front line. It's useless. Didn't you see the disciples of the Holy Mountain greeting him? If he doesn't withdraw and obediently stay in the second group, he probably won't even have a chance to catch the sun-chasing beast. The surrounding disciples of the Holy Mountain were naturally not polite to Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen's combat experience was too rich. He had experienced countless life and death battles in the past. Combat experience had been integrated into his blood, even if he was now using his original body, which used to only clean the floor. He was now more and more used to fighting with his original body. After taking care of another 3 or 4 disciples of the Holy Mountain, Lu Chen saw Yin Ling in front of him, who had caught the sun-chasing beast. He narrowed his eyes slightly. 1 minute. He only needed 1 minute to snatch the sun-chasing beast from Yin Ling. Chapter 751. The surrounding skills once again covered the sky and covered the earth. You want to pass? In your dreams? Huang Xian shouted angrily. Dragon Hao Jiutian. Huang Xian actually used Dragon Hao Jiutian. Is he trying to kill Nameless? This is a bit exaggerated. There's no other way. So many people can't hold that guy back. Without Dragon Hao Jiutian, I'm afraid they really can't stop him. Huang Xian's longsword turned into a giant dragon phantom. The giant dragon roared, and the surrounding people felt like their eardrums were about to shatter. This skill was actually a sound attack. But sound attacks were also spiritual energy vibrations. Lu Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. His body couldn't fully display the effects of spiritual energy, but Huang Xian was only a 9-star cultivator. Without soul and body as one, the power of this move wasn't necessarily strong. Since it was a spiritual energy fluctuation, he could miss. Heaven's Eye. Lu Chen opened his Heaven's Eye. He immediately discovered that when the giant dragon roared, it spewed out a huge amount of spiritual energy. He didn't expect this move's spiritual energy fluctuation to be so fierce. But after finding the spiritual energy fluctuation, even if he didn't use spiritual energy to resist, Lu Chen had other ways to dodge. 9 void steps. A miniature vortex appeared under Lu Chen's feet. The vortex transmitted a huge gravitational force, causing Dragon Hao Jiutian to deviate. Ghost Shadow Layer Descent. Lu Chen directly retreated to the back of the team, avoiding Dragon Hao Jiutian's attack. But in the next second, he descended again, returning to the front of the team. Night flash. With a long-distance displacement, Lu Chen had already rushed to Yin Ling's side. What kind of displacement technique is that? Creating a void under his feet? Elder Xian's eyes widened. Besides 9 void steps, how many displacement techniques does he have? He caught up to Yin Ling. He actually managed to rush out under the heavy encirclement. He has a sense of propriety. It's simply hard to figure out. But to snatch the sun-chasing beast from Yin Ling's hands isn't easy. Yin Ling's strength is generally considered to be stronger than Huang Xian. Smoke Spirit had already controlled the chasing sun beast for dozens of seconds. There was not much time left. At this time, every second of the battle was a race against time. Many people had already held their breaths, not daring to make a sound. Ingli clasped her hands in front of her chest. She had been frozen in place for a few minutes. At this point, she had completely forgotten that she was a disciple of the sacred mountain. All she could see now was that calm figure in the arena. There was still someone who could catch up with the sun-chasing beast, while being surrounded by the disciples of the holy mountain? What splendid attire, what handsomeness! Everything paled in comparison to that person's brilliant and unrestrained battle. No wonder people always say that serious men are the most handsome. Nameless Bro's serious look really made people's hearts pound. Yin Ling looked at the figure that suddenly appeared beside her in disbelief. Senior brother Huang Xian, and the others actually failed to deal with this fellow? He actually caught up. However, Smoke Spirit was not without strength. Now was the time to prove herself. Nameless, don't be complacent. First place is mine. No one can take it away from me. Lu Chen was very depressed. He was clearly not complacent. What was there to be proud of about this kind of basic operation? Ahem. I advise you to obediently hand over the sun-chasing beast. Otherwise, you'll lose face later. Nameless was actually chatting with Yin Ling. Ingli almost collapsed. Big brother, what time is it now? Why are you still chatting? How could Yin Ling fall for Lu Chen's trick? While moving at high speed, Yin Ling glared at Lu Chen. I think you should worry about yourself. 7 stars trapping beast. In an instant, Yin Ling had already jumped to another position, leaving Lu Chen far behind. Lu Chen shook his head. Why did this girl not listen to him? Sigh, it was hard to be a good person. 7 stars chasing moon. After saying that, Lu Chen caught up with Yin Ling in a flash. 7 stars chasing moon also had the 2 words 7 stars. Although it was much worse than 7 stars trapping beast, it also had 7 segments of displacement. Impossible, your 7 stars chasing moon can't catch up with me. You should be affected by me. Yin Ling looked at Nameless, who had appeared beside her in shock. Under normal circumstances, 7 stars chasing moon would definitely be greatly affected by its upgraded version. However, the problem was that if Lu Chen used the Chaos Spiritual Pill, then no one would be able to suppress him. Now is not the time to explain. Yin Ling quickly distanced herself from Lu Chen and jumped to another point. Still running. Triple door. I'm all ears. Triple door was really useful. Now that she was all ears, Yin Ling was sucked into the triple door by a strong suction force from afar, and was teleported in front of Lu Chen. When she turned around and saw that man again, Yin Ling almost broke down. What the hell? Why didn't this guy move and she came back? Forced to get close to him for 2 seconds, Yin Ling was temporarily unable to jump between the 7 stars. Shatter. Void. Lu Chen raised his hand. Hearing this name, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. There were still very few people in the 5th heaven who could shatter the void, but there were many who had heard of it. 100 times the attack. The sun-chasing beast would disrupt the captor's spiritual energy control. Therefore, unless Yin Ling gave up on the sun-chasing beast and used a skill, Yin Ling would be seriously injured even if she didn't die. Still not letting go. Lu Chen stared at Yin Ling. This woman was too stubborn. He didn't intend to seriously injure her. As long as she let go of the sun-chasing beast, he would take first place, and it would be over. In the end, this woman would rather be beaten than let go. How powerful can your spiritual blast be in close combat? As long as I take this punch, time will be up. Yin Ling stared at Lu Chen fiercely. Take this punch? Even if her attributes weren't high, she would definitely be seriously injured after taking this punch. Lu Chen frowned and threw a punch. Yanling closed her eyes tightly. With a loud bang, a huge pit was formed on the ground. Everyone stared at the field with their eyes wide open. However, Lu Chen missed at such a close distance. His fist passed by Yanling's ear, and the huge remaining force directly created a deep pit in the road in front of them. At this moment, someone outside the field shouted, "Sword manipulation, shadow assassin, spiritual master's skills are ineffective. Fire, wood and water elements are ineffective." Yanling still didn't understand why she was unharmed. When she suddenly heard this, her heart tightened. She was a water elemental shadow assassin. This time, she directly banned her profession in elements. Previously, in order to fight for the sun-chasing beast, she had already used a few non-profession displacement skills, especially the 7-star trapping beast. In the end, she couldn't use any displacement skills now. At this moment, there was too much information that she needed to deal with. In a moment of panic, she didn't even know how to cross the deep pit in front of her. In a panic, she directly stepped on air. At the crucial moment, a strong hand hugged her slender waist. This was originally a very romantic scene. Who knew what would happen in the future? However, that hand was a little naughty. With a little bit of force, an unbearable itch came over her. Puff, Yanling was the most ticklish. Being scratched like this made her feel like thousands of ants were crawling all over her body. She really couldn't bear it, and let go. A golden shadow instantly emerged from her hand. Immediately after, the sun-chasing beast was caught by someone. "Sorry, first place is mine. Go." Lu Chen smiled slightly. With a little force, he directly threw Yanling out of the running range. Looking at her beautiful granddaughter being thrown out by that kid, Yen Sun couldn't help but frown and say faintly, "This kid must be single." Chapter 752. Lu Chen is still single now, and he is indeed relying on his own ability. Without hesitation, Lu Chen threw away Smoke Spirit, who was known as the #1 beauty of the Holy Mountain, and grabbed the chasing sun beast. This little thing became obedient as soon as it touched his hand. It couldn't be helped. Lu Chen's chaos spiritual energy wasn't something it could shake. However, after discovering that it couldn't affect Lu Chen's spiritual energy, the little thing began to go crazy. Although it was only the size of a fist, its strength wasn't small. It carried Lu Chen and soared into the sky. Not good. The chasing sun beast went crazy. Strange. Why did it go crazy as soon as it touched my hand? Lu Chen was carried by the chasing sun beast, shuttling through the air at an irregular speed. Fuck, this thing is so strong. Lu Chen was also shocked. Little guy, if you continue to cause trouble, don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Chen had just finished speaking when the chasing sun beast became even crazier. It charged forward with the speed of a rapid movement skill. Lu Chen only felt wind in his ears, and he couldn't control his body. Quick, take him down. We can't let him get first place. Huang Xian glanced at his junior sister who was thrown out, and his eyes were red. His junior sister was the apple of the Holy Mountain's eye since she was young. Someone actually dared to treat her like this. This was intolerable. Kill him at all costs. However, the chasing sun beast's trajectory had a characteristic, and that was that it had no pattern. It would suddenly stop in the middle of a rapid movement, and then change direction. It was impossible to predict its position in advance. It was quite difficult to hit a crazy chasing sun beast. The best way at present was to use a group attack. And a large group attack often required a certain amount of time to accumulate power. This way, it would instead increase the distance between Lu Chen and them. Lu Chen saw that the people behind him were getting further and further away from him. He suddenly realized that if the chasing sun beast could continue to go crazy, as long as he wasn't thrown out, he wouldn't even need to make a move to take first place. The chasing sun beast can't affect my spiritual energy, so it's impossible to throw me off. I'm just afraid that this little thing will stop by itself. If that happens, I still have to deal with these holy mountain disciples. Thinking of this, Lu Chen immediately changed his tactics. Little guy, fly quickly. Now he was still complaining that the chasing sun beast was too slow. Come on. Another skill is coming from behind. Fly up. To the left. To the right. Dive. Lu Chen's hands didn't seem to be holding a monster, but a steering wheel instead. It had entered a frenzied state from the very first second the sun-chasing beast entered. This was the first time such a situation had occurred in the sun-chasing beast for so many years. In the end, it did not take long for the sun-chasing beast to carry Lu Chen and fly away, leaving the people behind them behind by 300 to 400 meters. At this distance, normal skills wouldn't be able to hit him. Fuck, what's going on? Is the sun-chasing beast his pet? Why are you so obedient? Why is this chasing sun beast so abnormal? In the past, it would only go berserk in the last few seconds. Why did it go berserk the moment it got into his hands? How are we going to catch up with him now that he's so far behind? Huang Xian's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He didn't know what kind of monster that fellow was, but he was actually able to run so fast with the sun-chasing beast. He had shaken them off with his speed. Damn it, chase after him. There was a black mass of people behind Lu Chen, chasing after him relentlessly. Lu Chen activated his opponent's stance and used teleportation skills to chase after him. He should be able to catch up very soon. Little guy, they're catching up. Quick. However, the sun-chasing beast was already very fast. Its normal movement speed was already close to the movement speed of a rapid teleportation skill. The key was that it was carrying a big guy that was dozens of times heavier than itself. It was already as fast as it could be. The key was that this fellow was not running in a straight line, so it wasted a lot of time. Seeing that the group of people behind him was about to catch up, Lu Chen's dream of getting first place without doing anything was ultimately shattered. Fuck, I can only do it myself. He grabbed the sun-chasing beast with one hand and let it carry him everywhere, while he pulled out the limitless divine demon sword with the other. As soon as the limitless divine demon sword appeared, everyone's weapons began to tremble. What kind of weapon is this? Could it be that this weapon has a weapon spirit? My Xianyuan sacred sword is actually trembling. Impossible. The Xianyuan sacred sword can definitely enter the divine weapon list at the fourth heaven. Black and white twin, the color is so strange. When the sword is unsheathed, all weapons submit. What kind of weapon is this? I've never heard of it before. Lu Chen turned around and used the 9 dragon pillars of annihilation. A huge stone pillar fell from the sky and smashed between him and the pursuers. The 7 dragon carvings on the 9 dragon pillars instantly came to life. The 7 dragons soared into the sky like demons dancing wildly, bombarding the enemies behind them with all kinds of elemental attacks. Lu Chen was still wondering why there were only 7 dragons. There should be 9 dragons. After thinking about it, he remembered that there were 3 types of elemental restrictions, including the water and fire elements. The other 2 dragon carvings on the pillars should be using these 2 types of elements. Yen Sun frowned and tried hard to recall. He had seen too many skills. Generally speaking, other than the heavenly might skill, many people had more than one skill, especially professional skills. However, he had never seen such a skill. However, in the ancient books of the Sacred Mountain, there was mention of similar skills. It was said that there was a forging stone in the Tower of Heaven's Punishment. If an ordinary weapon was placed on the forging stone, it could be directly upgraded to a celestial weapon. In the weapon's special effect, there would be the 9 dragon pillars of annihilation. 9 dragon pillars. 9 dragon pillars, annihilation of heaven and earth. He still remembered the description of the 9 dragon pillars of annihilation. This guy can't be the Tower of Heaven's Punishment that passed the 3rd heaven, right? It was no exaggeration to say that even if he had been at the 5th heaven for many years and was the leader of the Sacred Mountain Heavenly Lake, it was impossible for him to pass the Tower of Heaven's Punishment with his own strength. It was said that the guardian of the last level was extremely powerful, and it was impossible to pass. Could it be that he passed a few levels and left the Tower of Heaven's Punishment after strengthening his equipment? Yen Sun guessed. But even so, it was still hard to believe. Nameless, There are too many mysteries on him. What Yin Sun didn't expect was that Lu Chen was far from using his full strength. He didn't need to use his full strength in such a small competition. Looking at the field again, with the 9 dragon pillars blocking, Lu Chen had won some time. Little guy, I'll bring you flying. Lu Chen took the initiative and directly grabbed the chasing sun beast. With a few displacement movements, he completely pulled away from the pursuers behind him. Looking at the guy in front of him running away, Huang Xian fiercely chased, but he couldn't close the distance. Damn it! Nameless, don't run if you have the guts. Lu Chen's voice came from the front. Don't chase if you have the guts. Huang Xian almost vomited blood. This guy's mouth didn't lose to his at all. Ding. A clear bell rang. Someone outside the field rang the golden bell. The time for this round of competition was up. The sound of the bell seemed to have knocked on everyone's hearts. After a long time, someone murmured, "First, that guy snatched the first place of the sacred mountain." Chapter 753. The Sun Chaser tournament, that had been monopolized by the Holy Mountain for many years, had actually been broken by a rogue cultivator. For a moment, the various sect masters, elders, and core members were all present. This what happened? Who is he? And he took first place from the hands of the most outstanding Holy Mountain disciples in recent years, Yin Ling and Huang Xian. How can he be so strong at such a young age? Although there was an element of luck in this championship, taking first place is an inconceivable matter. I can't believe that a rogue cultivator could accomplish something that none of us could. The so-called luck was probably the second time he used the forbidden cultivation method and element, causing Yin Ling to completely lose her fighting strength. In any case, the Sun Chaser tournament's first place had been decided. Lu Chen held the Sun Chaser beast in his hands. The little fellow had finally calmed down. Lu Chen faintly smiled and stroked its little head. Little thing, thank you for helping me dodge so many skills. That's why I was able to take first place so easily. Not long after, Elder Xian walked over. Lu Chen handed the Sun Chaser beast over to him. Elder Xian couldn't help but look at the young man, who had caused him to lose 20 cash withdrawal scrolls. He had actually misjudged him. His battle style was natural and smooth, and he was calm and collected in the face of sudden changes. This fellow's age was completely disproportionate to his battle experience. Moreover, his skills were ever-changing, making it impossible for others to track him down. Nameless you. Elder Xian glanced at the badge on Lu Chen's chest. 7 stars Wild Cultivator. Are you interested in joining a sect? Not at the moment. Lu Chen bluntly said. All right. That's right. Our sect master wants to talk to you. He's waiting for you at the exit. Your competition is already over. It's a pity that you have to leave the Sun Chaser tournament. Lu Chen nodded. He turned around and glanced at the Holy Mountain disciples who were still in a daze, especially Huang Xian. That fellow's face was ashen, and his entire body seemed to be frozen in place. He probably still couldn't accept this reality. As the most outstanding disciple of the younger generation in recent years, he actually couldn't keep his place in the top 5 of the Sun Chaser tournament. Someone had snatched first place from his hands. Lu Chen smiled. You guys continue. Then he swaggered out of the arena. At the exit, Mistress and several elders of the Holy Mountain were waiting. When they saw Lu Chen come out, they hurried to greet him. Little friend John Doe, congratulations on being the champion, Yin Sun said with a big smile. Lu Chen scratched his head and said embarrassedly, Senior sect leader, I had no choice but to throw your granddaughter out. I'm sorry. Lu Chen's influence on Yin Sun was not bad. At least the sacred mountain did not bully the people around it. That girl didn't learn well, so how can she blame you? She has been by my side since she was young, and her path has been smooth and unimpeded. She hasn't had much training, so perhaps this setback is a good thing for her. Lu Chen nodded. Sure enough, Sect Master Yin Sun still had some magnanimity. Nameless, there's still some time before the competition starts. Why don't we go over to the side and watch the competition while drinking some tea? Okay. In the blink of an eye, Lu Chen had changed from a contestant to a spectator. He sat with Mistress and a group of elders to watch the day-chasing competition. Speaking of which, the competition was quite exciting. Lu Chen crippled more than 10 disciples of the Holy Mountain in the first round, which weakened the strength of the Holy Mountain. The others had a greater chance of winning, and the competition became more intense. Nameless, I'm curious. Did you hide your cultivation level? Mistress suddenly asked. Lu Chen smiled. Senior Yen, I just came to the 5th layer of heaven, and I don't belong to any sect. It's not easy to get a reality extraction scroll. Lu Chen meant that he did not hide his cultivation level. He was a 7-star cultivator. He did not mention that he had a few thousand reality extraction scrolls on him. He had originally planned to use them to make up for one of his attributes during the Heavenly Lake Conference, but he had not used them yet. However, at least during the test and the day-chasing competition, Lu Chen's attributes were his current attributes. He did not lie about this. I see. Mistress stroked her beard and nodded. Then I'll take the liberty to ask. Were you a great heavenly general in the 4th layer of heaven? At your age? I don't think I've heard of such a young great heavenly general. I'm not a great heavenly general. When I left the 4th layer of heaven, I was still a great heavenly general. If you're not a great heavenly general, then you're a middle heavenly general? No, I'm just a commoner. I don't have an immortal army rank, Lu Chen said. That thing doesn't seem to be of much use. Lu Chen said it casually, but Mistress did not know how to react. Immortal army ranks were useless? That was the most important way to obtain resources in the 4th layer of heaven. How could this kid say that it was dispensable? If other youngsters had said this, Mistress would have cursed them out. However, Lu Chen's strength was right there, so she had to adjust her thinking. Could it be that the immortal army ranks were really useless? So it's like this. Oh right. Nameless little friend. I've been wondering why there haven't been any newcomers from the 4th layer of heaven recently. Although the number is usually small, there would always be some people coming up. However, in this month, I've asked a few other big sections. They all said that there wasn't a single newcomer in their region. You said that you're new to the 5th layer of heaven. Do you know the reason? Lu Chen obviously knew the reason. The moon nether glow had died. In a short period of time, people from the 4th layer of heaven could not enter the Tong Tian Tower. However, Lu Chen thought about it again. He could not say this. Firstly, he did not want others to know the strength of his war soul. In the 5th layer of heaven, he was ranked after 10 million. There were as many experts as ants here. Before his body became stronger, it was better to keep a low profile. Secondly, if he confirmed this news, it would be easy for others to link him to the Azure Dragon Gate newcomers. Recently, only he could come to the 5th layer of heaven. If it wasn't him who killed the Azure Dragon Gate newcomers? I'm not sure about this. Lu Chen answered perfunctorily. Not long after, the 2nd place was determined. This time, Huang Xian did not give the others any chance. He immediately snatched the sun-chasing beast, and then used his strength to suppress the others to secure the 2nd place. The 3rd and 4th place were also disciples of the Sacred Mountain. Although their strength was not as good as Huang Xian's, their performance was still very eye-catching. Surprisingly, the 5th place was taken by an outstanding disciple from the Sacred Mountain. To be able to snatch the top 5 places from the Sacred Mountain, this handsome young man was so excited that he danced with joy. After the competition ended, he waved his fist towards the sky and roared, appearing to be in high fighting spirit, looking at the performance of the Mist Cave Valley disciple, and then looking at Lu Chen who was calmly drinking tea. The two suddenly formed a sharp contrast. One had taken the 1st place in a record, seriously injuring 12 Sacred Mountain disciples. But after winning, he only played with the sun-chasing beast. Although the other had also achieved a rare result of 5th place, there were only 5 Sacred Mountain disciples on the field. Some of them were still injured, but after winning, they were extremely excited. Sigh. There really was no harm if there was no comparison. These two were really not on the same level. Chapter 754. Since the Holy Mountain disciples were not counted in the rankings, The day-chasing competition ended when the other two outer sect disciples won. The wild cultivator Nameless took first place, the Mist Valley disciple Shungui took second place, and a female disciple from Donglai, Yin, took third place. After the competition ended, Huang Xian and Yin Ling returned to the sect master's side dejectedly. As soon as they returned, they saw Lu Chen sitting there and their expressions changed. However, the Holy Mountain's rules were strict. Even if they wanted to fight Lu Chen, since he was the sect master's guest, they could only hold it in. Grandpa, I'm sorry. I didn't even get a ranking. Yin Ling was about to cry. Huang Xian couldn't help but say, Master, you can't blame Smoke Spirit for this. However, during the second taboo skill, Elemental, you also know that Smoke Spirit's job and Elemental skill were all banned. That was the most crucial moment, which allowed some vile characters to take advantage of it. That's right. The junior brother behind Huang Xian said. His void-shattering technique was clearly off target. Junior sister would have been able to hold on for a minute, if he had a few more seconds. Yin Sun shook her head. Off target? Are you sure he missed? Don't you know that he was being merciful to you? Of course Yin Ling knew. Nameless had shown accurate prediction during the cultivation technique test. He could predict the battle 3 minutes later. At such a close distance, how could he miss when he was using a close combat technique? It was just that she didn't want to admit that that guy would be merciful to her. At this moment, Lu Chen took the initiative to speak and said indifferently, I did miss. At that time, there was someone attacking me from behind. I also attacked in a hurry. Plus, Yin Ling's dodging was exquisite, so it's not surprising that I missed. Yin Ling raised her head in astonishment. Did he really miss? That's right. At that time, she did make a dodging action. After all, a real person wasn't a puppet. Although a puppet was controlled by a puppet master and could dodge, it wasn't as flexible as a human's body. Yin Sun was quite surprised. Did this kid really miss? He had admitted it with his own mouth. People make mistakes just like horses stumble. Perhaps it was true. Nameless bro, you're here. Ingli squeezed through the crowd and finally found Lu Chen with great difficulty. In the end, she saw the sect master and the group of elders, and was immediately shocked. Sect master, elders, and also senior brother Huang Xian, junior sister Yin Ling. Lu Chen stood up and pulled Ingli over. Ingli, you're here. I'm sorry I didn't look for you earlier. Sect master Yin glanced at Yin Sun. Seeing that Lu Chen was very friendly towards her, she smiled and said, Are you the nameless guide disciple? Junior martial brother Fong. What's this child's name? Oh, she is one of my disciples. Her name is Ingli. Ingli, right? This child is not bad. Elder Fong quickly understood the meaning behind the sect leader's words. He smiled at Ingli and said, Ingli, go back and tell your master that I want to transfer you to my side and teach you personally. Ask him if he is willing to let you go. Ingli's eyes widened as her mind buzzed. Personally taught by Elder Fong? She wasn't dreaming, right? Elder Fong had the highest rank among the elders. He was second only to the sect leader and Elder Xian. Most importantly, following Elder Fong would give her more opportunities. With more opportunities, there would be more rewards. This. Ingli was so insignificant. How could she dare to think of such a good thing? Lu Chen smiled at Ingli. Since Elder Fong is willing to teach you personally, then you should give it a try. Who knows, you might be able to participate in the Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting next time. Elder Fong naturally understood that the sect leader was trying to rope in Nameless. He quickly followed up on Lu Chen's words and said, This child is smart and quick-witted. It's just that she hasn't been given a good opportunity. I want to teach her for a period of time. At most a year. She should be able to participate in next year's Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting. Ingli was completely dumbfounded. Happiness had come too suddenly. Obviously, all of this was because of Brother Nameless. Back then, she didn't despise Brother John Doe for his shabby clothes and plain looks. Instead, she warmly led the way for him. Now, because of Brother John Doe's words, she was brought to Elder Fong's side to be nurtured. Everyone, the Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting is about to begin. Let's go over. Elder Xian said. That's true. Nameless also wants to participate in the Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting. Nameless, to be honest, I'm really looking forward to seeing you create another miracle. Yen Sun stood up and smiled at Lu Chen. Lu Chen smiled. Let's leave this matter to fate. Most of the people participating in the Heavenly Lake Grand Meeting had already arrived at the Heavenly Lake. When Lu Chen and the others arrived at the Heavenly Lake was already surrounded by people. Elder Xian had already sent a disciple to close the Heavenly Lake Grand Array. They would be able to enter the Heavenly Lake soon. There were 3 people on the Holy Mountain side: Yan Ling, Huang Xian, and the third place Chang Sheng. No matter what the ranking was, it was their own matter. Others didn't need to interfere. On the other hand, there were Nameless, Sheng Gui, and Yu Yan. Following a long and deep sound, the Heavenly Lake Grand Array slowly opened. When the Grand Array opened, a large amount of spiritual energy surged out from the Heavenly Lake. Lu Chen said to Ingli, "Bathing means bathing, right? Do you need to take off your clothes?" With so many people watching, wouldn't it be a bit awkward? Ingli couldn't help but laugh. Nameless bro, you don't need to take off your clothes. You don't really need to bathe in the Heavenly Lake. Just soak in it. In 2 hours, if there's no reaction, will come out. Soak in it for 2 hours? Wouldn't that be a waste? Ingli shook her head. Nameless bro, don't be so talkative. I don't even have the chance to do that. Oh right, in the Heavenly Lake, you can try using your own treasures or skills. In short, try anything and see if you can resonate with it. Who knows, it might be useful. Oh, there's also the fusion of soul and body and battle pets. Don't just look at the beauties. Lu Chen nodded. In any case, when the time came, he would just observe how the others did it and learn from them. All those who have been selected, please gather here. Elder Xian gathered all the people who had been selected. Are you all ready? The few of them nodded. Lu Chen didn't know what to prepare, so he just nodded along. Remember, it's 2 hours. If you can trigger a reaction from the Heavenly Lake, you can continue to stay in the Heavenly Lake. Otherwise, I'll let you out in 2 hours. Okay, next, let's bathe in the Heavenly Lake. The 5 of them turned around and jumped into the Heavenly Lake. Lu Chen was half a beat slower, but he also jumped in. Lu Chen had just popped his head out of the water when he saw the other 5 people coming out of the water in a stunning manner. Especially Yin Ling. The moment she came out of the water, she was like a hibiscus emerging from the water. Her beauty was unparalleled. Only he came out of the water with his hair covering his head. Lu Chen stroked his hair and shook his head. These people were too scheming. After those people came out of the water, they used every second they had to frantically use their skills. Fusion of soul and body. Dragon Roar Jiotian. 7-star beast trap. The opportunity to bathe in the Heavenly Lake was rare. Even Yin Ling and the others only had 1 chance. Therefore, they had to try as many times as they could. These people stirred the water into a mess. Lu Chen frowned with disdain. It's such a big place. Do they have to squeeze together? As he spoke, he swam into the distance. Chapter 755. The area of the Heaven Lake was very big. Lu Chen swam to a calm water area, far away from those lunatics. He was not in a hurry to try it. Anyway, 2 hours was enough for him to use all his skills. He would consider if he should use soul body as one at the end. After all, after using soul body as one, he would be unfamiliar with the place, and he would not have a master to rely on. It would be too easy for others to kill him. Since the level 5 is the main body, I might not even need to use soul body as one. Lu Chen thought about it, and decided to use his own body to activate the skills. Heaven's Eyes, Tiger descends the mountain, shatter the void 3000 body slash, 8 desolates, listen, Heavenly Flame Pillar, 9 annihilating dragons, rapid movement, 9 steps in the void, 7 stars chasing the moon, all kinds of elemental attacks, rejuvenation, and even the mixed Yuan heart technique were useless. It's useless. Lu Chen shook his head. He was tired after such a long time. He lay on the water and let himself go with the flow. Soul body as one did not work over there. If I use it, it probably won't work either. Lu Chen sighed. It seemed that he would not be able to get the opportunity in the Heavenly Lake. It's still early. Let's rest first. Although the heavenly lake was full of spirit chi, it was very gentle. If he could cultivate here, Lu Chen's fighting soul would grow quickly. A good source of spirit chi is really useful. If I can find such a source of spirit chi, I can bring the army up. After resting for a while, Lu Chen began to test his equipment and battle pets. The infinite celestial demon sword did not respond. The magic treasures did not respond. Rhubarb furball, Xiaomin, and Little Green did not respond. Divine beasts could only be summoned when they were in soul body as one. Lu Chen thought about it and decided to give it one last try. He still had a few skills that he had not used. He also had soul body as one and divine beasts as battle pets. However, he did not want others to see these. The best way was to dive into the water. With that thought, Lu Chen dived into the water. Where's that nameless? Why is it gone? It seems to be heading towards the bottom of the heavenly lake. Many people have already tried it countless times. If there's a reaction on the surface of the lake, it means that there's a reaction. If there's no reaction, it's useless even if you swim to the bottom of the lake. He's a rogue cultivator. He probably doesn't know. Lu Chen really didn't know this, but his purpose was actually to test his own trump card. Since it was a trump card, it naturally couldn't be seen by others. Originally, Lu Chen had planned to dive to a depth of a few hundred meters. If he went any deeper, he probably wouldn't be able to hold his breath. But to his surprise, after diving, he suddenly realized that he didn't need to hold his breath. He could extract air from the surrounding water. Since when did I have this ability? Just as Lu Chen was feeling surprised, a dark blue pearl suddenly appeared beside him. It was faintly glowing, and could even help him illuminate his surroundings. Lu Chen took a closer look, and remembered that this was the unknown bead that the little golden carp had given him. It turned out that it was this bead that allowed him to move freely underwater. Since that was the case, he would dive a little deeper and try. He couldn't rule out the possibility that the people of the sacred mountain had underwater surveillance equipment. Thinking back to the time when he was in the heart refinement courtyard, Qin Sheng and Old Ma had monitored the scene of his underwater battle with the black flood dragon. Lu Chen continued diving, his speed faster than usual. It was as if his body couldn't feel the water pressure and didn't need to take a breath. After diving for 10 minutes, the surroundings had become pitch black. Only the bead beside him provided a faint blue light. I'm almost 1,000 meters down, and I still haven't reached the bottom? Since I'm already here, let's go down and take a look. 2,000 meters. This place had already exceeded the height of the sacred mountain. He should already be underground. If it wasn't for the bead that the little golden carp had given Lu Chen, he definitely wouldn't be able to dive to such a deep place. Even if there was enough oxygen, the water pressure could directly crush him into meat paste. There weren't any living creatures underwater. This made Lu Chen a little surprised. After diving another 400 to 500 meters, he would probably reach the bottom of the lake. With the faint light of the bead, Lu Chen could see some strange rocks around him. There seems to be a person over there. Lu Chen looked at a black shadow not far away in surprise. It seemed to be in the shape of a human. There's someone here? Lu Chen was shocked. He swam over carefully. After swimming closer, Lu Chen finally saw it clearly. There was indeed a person here, but this person seemed to be dead. He sat there cross-legged and didn't move. His long hair fluttered with the water. What was surprising was that his body was still intact. His clothes were intact. If he hadn't been motionless for a long time, perhaps Lu Chen would have thought that he was a living person. Although that person's clothes and hair fluttered with the water, his body was as steady as a rock and didn't move at all. Lu Chen swam over curiously. Who is this guy? Why is he here? He didn't have any underwater protective Dharma treasure on him. How did he come to such a deep place? Lu Chen stretched out his hand and tried to touch that person's face. However, with just a touch, that person's body directly disintegrated. Damn! What the hell is this? Lu Chen hurriedly retracted his hand in fear. He glanced at his fingers. Fortunately, there was nothing wrong with them. The mysterious person's body instantly disintegrated. His hair and clothes fell off, and his skin and flesh disappeared with the water. Lu Chen felt his hair stand on end. How long has this guy been in the water? His body has actually been completely corroded. After that person disintegrated, a golden scroll suddenly fell out of his arms. The scroll was intact and slightly glowed with a golden light. Lu Chen learned his lesson this time. He used listen respectfully and sucked the scroll into his palm. He didn't know what the scroll was made of. It wasn't affected by the water and could be read normally. Lu Chen carefully opened the scroll. Before he started reading, a line of words suddenly jumped out from the system. Activated hidden mission, itinerant immortal's last wish, immortal level. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with disbelief. There was actually a hidden mission in the fifth heaven? It seemed that the fifth heaven was indeed a form of teleportation into the Jiutian. But it was still a part of the Jiutian. However, the fifth heaven was the fifth heaven after all. This was the first time Lu Chen had received an immortal level hidden mission. Mission? Restart the fifth heaven. Lu Chen was even more shocked. Wasn't the fifth heaven fine? What did it mean to restart the fifth heaven? Mission description. There are 5 major spirit veins in the fifth heaven. All of them were blocked by the demonic beast emperor, causing the fifth heaven's spirit energy to be scarce. For hundreds of years, the strength of the fifth heaven has stagnated. Very few people can ascend to the sixth heaven. I was ordered to descend from the sixth heaven to unblock the spirit veins and restart the prosperity of the fifth heaven. However, I was attacked by the demonic beast emperor under the heavenly lake of the sacred mountain. I fought with him. Although I killed him, my spirit energy was depleted, and I was on the verge of death. I have specially left this book for the fated one to obtain. Mission details: unblock 5 spirit veins in the fifth heaven. Each one is guarded by the demonic beast emperor's subordinates. Mission reward: 1 spirit stone vein in the fifth heaven. Lu Chen's eyes widened. Directly rewarded with a spirit stone vein? If it could be mined, didn't that mean that he could make cash withdrawal scrolls? Chapter 756. Behind the mysterious man, Lu Chen saw a huge skeleton. As the light of the pearl was too small, he couldn't see the whole thing at a glance. These skeletons were huge and endless, as if there was no end to them. Fuck, this is the remains of the demon beast supreme? It's estimated to be over 1,000 meters. Needless to say, if this demon beast supreme was not already dead, Lu Chen would feel weak even if he fought in the strongest state of soul-body fusion. Even if it was a loose immortal, it would only result in both sides suffering. Lu Chen still had self-awareness. He was definitely not its opponent. Fortunately, it had already been killed by the itinerant immortal, and now only a skeleton was left. Right, call Rhubarb out. Maybe I can find some treasures. Lu Chen quickly summoned Rhubarb. With the protection of the mysterious pearl, Rhubarb flapped twice and found that there was no problem in the water. It happily wagged its tail and swam in the water. Lu Chen couldn't speak underwater, so he directly ordered Rhubarb to try to find treasures. Not long after, Rhubarb swam in a direction. Lu Chen was delighted and followed closely. After swimming for a while, Rhubarb finally stopped. Below a skeleton, there was a cloud of black gas slightly circling around. Lu Chen didn't dare to approach it directly. He first opened his heaven's eye and found that there was nothing in the center of the black gas. Strange, Rhubarb said there was a treasure here. What is it? Why didn't I see it? And what is this black gas emitted from? This matter was strange, so Lu Chen didn't dare to act rashly. He used his spirit energy to push the black gas away and take a look. Because the effect of activating spirit essence was reduced, Lu Chen directly activated soul-body fusion and used his battle soul to activate spirit essence. A large amount of spirit energy slowly approached the black gas, but in an instant, the spirit energy emitted by Lu Chen was directly absorbed by the black gas. The range of the black gas suddenly increased by dozens of times. This wasn't the worst. At this moment, Lu Chen found that the black gas was following the path of his spirit energy and pouncing towards him. It was like a hungry monster that saw its prey and excitedly pounced over. Fuck, what the hell is this? Lu Chen tried to cut off the overflow of spirit energy, but the black gas was still rushing towards him. It was extremely fast, and in a moment, it had already surrounded Lu Chun. Seeing the black gas quickly gathering around him, as if it was going to swallow him, Lu Chen's eyes bulging. He first recalled rhubarb, and then quickly emitted a large amount of spirit energy from between his palms to resist the black gas's corrosion. The black gas surrounded Lu Chen's body. When Lu Chen's spirit energy gushed out, it was quickly assimilated into the black gas, causing the range of the black gas to become larger and larger. Lu Chen was shocked. He was temporarily relying on the spirit energy storm to ensure that he could continuously emit spirit energy, but this was undoubtedly drinking poison to quench thirst. He could only let the black gas think that he was still useful and would not swallow him in one gulp. Fuck, there's such a terrifying thing under this heavenly lake. Lu Chen couldn't even find the enemy now. His opponent was just a mass of black gas. 10 minutes later, Lu Chen was still barely holding on. But if he could see the situation at the bottom of the lake, he would definitely be shocked. At first, it was only a small mass of black gas, but now it had expanded to a black sphere with a diameter of 300 to 400 meters. At this moment, the black gas began to compress inwards. Lu Chen could clearly feel that in order to expand the black gas's compression, he needed a large amount of spirit energy. A trace of blood appeared in the water. This was the blood that seeped out from the corner of Lu Chen's mouth after his physical body was injured. Just using spirit energy had already caused his physical body, the physical body of his battle soul, to be unable to withstand it. This showed how terrifying the spirit energy that Lu Chen was emitting was. 1 million points of spirit energy was the upper limit of the fourth heavenly layer. In the end, the spirit energy storm could only last for less than 10 seconds. The black gas was still compressing inwards. Lu Chen was already bleeding from all 7 orifices. At this moment, a thought flashed through Lu Chen's mind. I'm going to die here. Even though he had rich battle experience and had survived many desperate situations, he really couldn't think of any countermeasures this time. Without an opponent, he wouldn't be able to use a large number of skills that could deal huge damage. The black gas continued to compress, and Lu Chen desperately resisted, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. However, he didn't have time to think, and all his energy was focused on resisting the black gas's compression. Gradually, Lu Chen was unable to resist. The spirit energy storm needed to last for about 3 seconds, but with his full spirit energy, he could only last for 3 seconds. As long as he couldn't use the spirit energy storm to replenish his spirit energy, it meant that he was doomed. I'm sorry, rhubarb, little furball, little green Xiaomin, we're going to die here. At this moment, the mysterious bead beside Lu Chen suddenly emitted a blue light. Lu Chen's position formed a whirlpool of water. In the next second, Lu Chen directly appeared outside the black gas. In an instant, the surrounding pressure disappeared. Lu Chen spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His physical body's damage was as high as 80%. He looked at the mysterious bead in disbelief. This bead could actually bring him out of the black gas range. This could be a high-level displacement skill. The mysterious bead's light didn't diminish, and Lu Chen also saw the black gas not far away. What shocked Lu Chen was that the black gas didn't just absorb his spirit energy, it also absorbed the skeleton of the demon beast supreme. Lu Chen was inside the black gas at that time, so he couldn't see what was happening outside. This was only his guess. However, the incomparably huge skeleton was indeed gone, and besides him and the black gas, there were no other living things around. Since he didn't take the skeleton away, it was most likely the black gas. At this time, the black gas was still compressing, and it had already been compressed to a height of 10 meters. It was unknown how much spirit energy this black gas had absorbed from Lu Chen. At this time, it was highly condensed, and from a gaseous state, it gradually turned into a solid state. When the black gas was compressed to a height of 1 meter, it completely solidified. In front of Lu Chen, a black egg appeared. Lu Chen was dumbfounded. What's going on? Just as Lu Chen was surprised, the egg suddenly cracked from the inside, and a winged dragon broke out of the shell. After it finished eating the eggshell, it glanced at Lu Chen, and then directly rushed to the surface of the water and disappeared. Lu Chen frowned. That thing is wait, it can't be. The Demon Beast Supreme has been reborn. The Demon Beast Supreme that only itinerant immortals can kill has been reborn. This doesn't seem to be a good thing. Its speed is so fast it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Just as Lu Chen was still thinking about whether to chase and kill that young dragon, the system suddenly sent a congratulatory message. Congratulations on activating the first spiritual source, the Holy Mountain's Heavenly Lake Spiritual Source. Mission completion. 1/5. The spiritual source is recovering for the first time. In about 30 days, the isolation layer will be completely destroyed. Please avoid directly approaching the spiritual source. As the system spoke, the rock stratum under Lu Chen's feet suddenly shook violently, and then, a crack appeared in the rock stratum. From the crack, a torrential flow of spirit energy gushed out. Lu Chen's mind whirled. What a rich spirit energy! The system said that the isolation layer would be completely destroyed after 30 days. Now he couldn't directly approach the spiritual source. In other words, in these 30 days, the isolation layer wouldn't be completely destroyed, and he couldn't directly come into contact with the spiritual source. To put it simply, could he cultivate here for 30 days? Chapter 757. The spiritual origin was just below the rock layer, but the rock layer was still there. Lu Chen was safe here. He had 30 days to cultivate at the place closest to the spiritual origin. There was no one around, so Lu Chen immediately activated the Divine Demon Symbiotic Cultivation. The Divine Demon Mixed Element Cultivation technique was currently at the 3rd level, increasing his spiritual energy by 20 points every minute. With the help of the mysterious bead, Lu Chen did not need to return to the surface to replenish his oxygen supply. There was also a large amount of food in his backpack that Ying Li had bought, which was enough for him to last for a while. In just 1 minute, Lu Chen's spiritual energy had increased by 50 points, which was 5 times more than normal cultivation. Lu Chen was shocked. This cultivation speed was too fast. At the 3rd level, it was equivalent to one 100-point spiritual energy pill every 2 minutes. One immortal spiritual pill every 20 minutes. The mixed element cultivation technique could be cultivated to the 4th level when one's spiritual energy reached 1 million. At 1 million, one could cultivate to the 5th level. At the 5th level, one could obtain the 3rd exclusive special effect, which allowed one to enter the 2nd level of the inner demon state. Thinking of this, Lu Chen quickly collected his thoughts and focused on cultivating. At the bottom of the heavenly lake, the rock layer cracked, and a large amount of spiritual energy surged out. The white light swept away the darkness at the bottom of the lake. This place was in a state of madness before it collapsed. However, in such a harsh environment, a figure sat cross-legged on a piece of rock layer that was still intact, without any distractions. At the 5th level, one needed to be especially focused when cultivating the cultivation technique. At the same time, it also consumed energy. Fortunately, the bottom of the lake was absolutely safe. Lu Chen only needed to focus on cultivating, and did not need to worry about his own safety. On the first day, Lu Chen cultivated for 16 hours, and slept for the remaining 8 hours to replenish his energy. In just 1 day, his spiritual energy increased by 48,000 points. 2 days later, the mixed element cultivation technique was upgraded to the 4th level. In the Divine Demon Symbiotic Cultivation technique, his spiritual energy increased by 40 points every minute. Cultivating at the bottom of the lake could increase his spiritual energy by 100 points every minute. In just another 10 days, Lu Chen's fighting soul's spiritual energy broke through 2 million points. It took him a few years to increase his spiritual energy to 1 million points. In the end, in just 10 days, his spiritual energy doubled. On the 13th day of his cultivation at the bottom of the lake, his Origin Celestial Devil Sutra had reached the 5th level. Lu Chen gained 80 spiritual energy every minute, which increased by 5 times. Now Lu Chen gained 200 spiritual energy every minute, nearly 200,000 yuan a day. However, Lu Chen discovered that when his fighting soul's spiritual energy reached 2 million, the doubling of his spiritual source began to decrease. When his spiritual energy exceeded 2 million, it only increased by 2 times. When it exceeded 3 million, it only increased by 5 times. When it reached 4 million, there was no effect at all. At this time, Lu Chen had been cultivating at the bottom of the lake for 28 days. His battle soul's spiritual energy had reached 4 million. What kind of concept was this? A single spiritual space cannon had dealt 2 billion damage. Lu Chen felt a bit of regret after discovering that the spirit source didn't increase his spiritual force anymore. He was just short of 1 million to 5 million before he could activate the 6th layer of the origin god and devil cultivation method. However, Lu Chen thought about it. His fighting soul's spiritual energy was already very high. Before he obtained a new set of origin god and devil sutra, he wouldn't be able to activate any new special effects. There were only 2 days left before the collapse of the rock layer. The surrounding environment was getting worse and worse. Lu Chen exited the state of origin god and devil symbiosis. This trip to the Heavenly Lake meeting wasn't in vain. Looking back at the bottom of the lake, there was once a loose immortal who had fought with Devil Beast Sovereign. Both of them had fallen. However, the loose immortal had disappeared with the water, but Devil Beast Sovereign had been reborn. Devil Beast Sovereign's rebirth could be said to be caused by Lu Chen. Rhubarb believed that there was a treasure here because it didn't feel the black gas, but the black gas blocking the spirit source. However, no matter what, Devil Beast Sovereign's rebirth was caused by Lu Chen. Lu Chen frowned. The immortal rank hidden mission required him to restart the 5th heavenly layer. If Devil Beast Sovereign interfered, then the mission couldn't be completed. Moreover, to go to the heaven-reaching tower, he had to pass through the Devil Beast nest. It seemed that a battle between him and Devil Beast Sovereign was unavoidable. At that time, Devil Beast Sovereign was still a cub. He didn't know how long it would take for it to reach adulthood, and whether he could deal with it by then. If even a loose immortal had to die, then it was still too early to worry about this. Lu Chen put it aside for the time being. At least he had gained a lot in this Heavenly Lake meeting. It was almost time to go back. Just as Lu Chen was rising upstream, he suddenly saw a bubble drifting in the undercurrent not far away. What's going on? Lu Chen frowned and swam toward the bubble. The crowd around the Heavenly Lake didn't disperse. It was unknown how many years had passed, but the Heavenly Lake had suddenly undergone a great change. The originally calm water of the Heavenly Lake was now boiling endlessly like boiling water. A month ago, the Heavenly Lake suddenly became violent. A large amount of water surged out from the bottom of the lake, and even the whole sacred mountain shook. The 5 people who were bathing in the Heavenly Lake were instantly dragged into the undercurrent and disappeared. Yin Sun and the others were very anxious when they saw their disciples being swallowed by the undercurrent. Yin Sun was even more anxious to save his granddaughter, so he jumped into the water directly. However, the undercurrent at the bottom of the lake carried a strong spiritual qi. If Yin Sun wasn't strong enough, he would have been dragged into the lake as well. Now no one dared to go into the water. They could only wait for the Heavenly Lake to calm down and see if there was any hope for those who were swallowed to surface. This wait lasted for a month. The Heavenly Lake is boiling, and the undercurrent is swallowing people. What is going on? I have never heard of such a thing before. I have also never heard of such a thing. According to our ancient records, many years ago, the water of the Heavenly Lake had the ability to increase the attributes of spiritual qi. However, at that time, the Heavenly Lake was gentle. It was never as violent as it is now. Could it be that a giant beast has awakened at the bottom of the lake? There should be no living creatures at the bottom of the Heavenly Lake. Sigh. Now no one knows what is going on at the bottom of the lake. I wonder if those people have any hope of surviving. Yin Sun had been waiting beside the Heavenly Lake for a month. He could only watch helplessly as his granddaughter was swept away by the undercurrent. He was heartbroken. However, their physiques were far stronger than ordinary people. Moreover, There were disciples who specialized in the water element among them. There was still a chance of survival. At the beginning of the mutation, the spiritual qi in the undercurrent was enough to mess up Yin Sun's spirit core. Not to mention Yin Ling and the others. Now that the water of the heavenly lake was becoming more and more restless, their already weak hope became even more uncertain. Ling Xian Changsheng. Yin Sun's eyes were dry, and his heart was dead. Lu Chen swam towards the bubble. There were 5 figures in the bubble. Lu Chen looked at them, and saw that they were Yin Ling and the others. At that moment, 4 of the 5 people were lying on the ground. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Only Yin Ling was holding on to the bubble with both of her hands. However, Yin Ling was also at the end of her life. Her face was pale and her eyes were lifeless. Streaks of undercurrent hit the bubble mercilessly. Every time it hit the bubble, Yin Ling would spit out a mouthful of blood. It seemed that she would not be able to hold on for much longer. On the 28th day, the 5 people encountered a mutation and were swept to the bottom of the lake. At that time, the 5 of them did not care about their sex and hurriedly huddled together to survive. However, after 28 days, the heavenly lake became more and more restless. They fell one by one, and now, only Yin Ling was left. However, she could not hold on any longer. A ferocious undercurrent hit the bubble. Yin Ling spat out a mouthful of blood, and the bubble was directly pierced. It was over. Chapter 758. The bubble was punctured and a large amount of lake water surged forth, instantly washing away the 5 of them. Yin Ling's consciousness was already blurred. She could only watch as her companions were swept away by the current. Senior brother Huang Xian, senior brother Changsheng, I'm sorry. Sister Yuan Shengui. Yin Ling wanted to save them, but her spiritual energy had already been exhausted. Her body could only be controlled by the undercurrent. Only that annoying guy wasn't here. Was he still alive? Under such circumstances, the 5 of them couldn't survive even if they tried their best. That guy must be dead. She didn't know why, but at the last moment of her life, Yin Ling actually thought of that person. That guy who threw her out of the day chasing competition really hated her to the extreme. Her consciousness gradually blurred. She couldn't open her eyes anymore and slowly closed them. The lake water rushed into her lungs. At this moment, an incomparably tyrannical pulling force suddenly came from not far away. Yin Ling found that her body was fiercely moving in a certain direction. This undercurrent was actually so fierce? What exactly happened at the bottom of the lake? However, not long after, the same feeling in the day chasing competition came again. A strong hand hugged her waist, followed by an ordinary but abnormally annoying face. Was this a dream? What a terrifying dream! Lu Chen frowned and shook his head. Then he very disdainfully kissed her. Yin Ling, who was about to faint, suddenly opened her eyes wide. She instantly woke up. To be honest, Lu Chen didn't know how to do underwater mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. He didn't know the difference between it and kissing. But fortunately, after a kiss, the guy finally reacted a little and kept hammering his little fist. In terms of the effect, it was immediate. It seemed that CPR should be like this. He finally grasped first aid knowledge. After the CPR ended, Yin Ling's eyes were slightly red. Lu Chen guessed that she might have been moved by him. Lu Chen had the mysterious bead by his side. He pulled Yin Ling, so her life shouldn't be in danger. Then, Lu Chen directly used the triple door and pulled Huang Xian and the others over. These people were already unconscious, so artificial respiration under the water was probably useless. They had to go ashore as soon as possible. The longer they stayed underwater, the smaller their chances of survival would be. Lu Chen couldn't care less. He activated 3 lives of reincarnation and shortened the cooldown of his displacement. 9 void steps. 7 stars chasing the moon triple gate. Lu Chen led the 5 of them to avoid the undercurrents as they frantically moved towards the surface of the lake. Sect Master, more than 20 days have passed. I'm afraid that Ling and the others are. Elder Xian shook his head and looked at the increasingly turbulent heavenly lake water. I don't know why the heavenly lake is so restless. Not even the ancient books in the heavenly lake of the holy mountain had recorded such a situation. Yin Sun heaved a long sigh. He seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. I wanted to give them a chance, but who would have thought? They were all talented juniors. If nothing goes wrong, they will all be successful in the future. As the sect leader, I can't absolve myself from the blame. Sect leader, it's hard to predict what will happen to the Jiotian. My condolences. Just as everyone was about to give up, the surface of the water suddenly exploded. A few figures broke through the water and were thrown over. Senior Yin, 4 of them are drowning. Save them. A voice sounded. Then, Nameless appeared in a flash. When everyone saw this scene, their mood suddenly dropped to the bottom of the valley and rose to their throats. In such a heavenly lake, after 28 days of strange movements, there were still people who could come out alive from the bottom of the lake. However, now was not the time to dwell on this. Yin Sun saw Ling, and Huang Xian at a glance. Of course, he couldn't care less about Nameless. Quick, save them. Yin Sun and the other sect leaders of the Eastern Lai sect leaped high and caught them. They immediately organized a rescue. Although these people were already half dead because of the depletion of their spiritual power, Lu Chen arrived in time. After a round of rescue, these people finally spat out the water in their lungs. It seemed that they were alive. Yen Ling's limbs were also weak. Lu Chen carried her like a princess and landed with him. Lu Chen kept feeling that someone was looking at him with resentment. When he looked down, he saw that it was Yen Ling. However, Yen Ling didn't say anything. She just had a murderous look in her eyes. Hey, I saved you. Aren't you going to thank me? I cough. Yen Ling was just about to speak when she was interrupted by a cough. Linger. Yen Sun rushed over and anxiously took Yen Ling from Lu Chen. When Yen Ling saw her grandfather, she immediately cried. It's okay. You're finally okay. You scared me to death. Yen Sun comforted his granddaughter. Then, he looked at Lu Chen and said excitedly, Nameless, thank you so much this time. Those children are also saved. It's really scary but not dangerous. That's great. Lu Chen smiled slightly. It's just a small matter. Senior Yen, you don't have to be so polite. The heavenly lake was bathed in a sudden change. However, Lu Chen appeared in time. The sect leaders and elders of the Holy Mountain, Eastern Lai, and Whooping came to thank him. After 28 days of fear and trepidation, these people finally received good news. Nameless, are you okay? It was only now that people paid attention to Lu Chen. As he used the 3 lives reincarnation technique in his original form, Lu Chen's condition was very bad. His face was pale, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. I'm fine. I'm just a little tired. Summoningly, quickly take Nameless to rest. That night, Lu Chen had already recovered. The disciples who had bathed in the heavenly lake were also basically healed. Yen Sun was anxious when he saw the changes in the heavenly lake. The 6 of them went to the meeting hall. When Lu Chen entered, he realized that not only were there people from the Holy Mountain, there were also many sect leaders from other sections. When Changxing, Yiyan and Shengui saw Lu Chen, they all went up to him. Thank you, Brother Nameless, for saving our lives. We can never repay you. If it weren't for Brother Nameless, we would have been buried at the bottom of the lake. I can't thank you enough. If you need Shengui's help in the future, Brother Nameless, please don't hesitate to ask. Lu Chen smiled. I just happened to meet you. It's just a small matter. You don't have to take it to heart. Huang Xian saw his master glaring at him. He knew that his master wanted him to thank him personally. However, he was unwilling to move because of his face. Yen Ling was even more unwilling. She stood in place and was in a dilemma. Yen Sun finally couldn't help but speak. As soon as she opened her mouth, she shouted angrily, Ling Xian, do you want me to teach you how to behave? The 2 of them were shocked as well. The sect leader was angry. The 2 of them walked up to Lu Chen. Thank you for saving our lives. Thank you. Lu Chen smiled and didn't argue with the 2 of them. Lu Chen's position was different from the other disciples. The other disciples all stood behind the elders. Only Lu Chen had a special seat like the other sect leaders and elders. Moreover, He was right beside Yin Sun. This was enough to show that in the eyes of the others, Lu Chen's position was enough to be on equal footing with the elders. After Lu Chen sat down, Yin Sun went straight to the point. Nameless, do you know what happened at the bottom of the heavenly lake? Chapter 759. The atmosphere suddenly became serious. Lu Chen thought for a while, and did not answer directly. Instead, he asked Yin Sun, Senior Yin, I want to ask, how was the strength of Heavenly Lake in the past? I mean in the ancient books of your sect, was there a gap in strength? Yin Sun was a little surprised. He did not know why Nameless would ask this question. But it was not a secret, so he answered. Actually, there was a gap in strength in the entire holy mountain. Or rather, the whole fifth heaven was the same. 1,500 years ago, the strong cultivators of the holy mountain could reach the great cultivator realm, and their cultivation speed was much faster than now. But now, the great cultivators can go to a wider area to gain experience. They don't need to stay in the holy mountain anymore. Comparing the past and present, it is not difficult to find that the strength of the fifth heaven has regressed. Lu Chen nodded. What Yin Sun said coincided with the task of restart the fifth heaven. This matter was related to the fate of the holy mountain, and even the whole fifth heaven. Lu Chen told them the truth. The great change of Heavenly Lake this time is actually an opportunity for Heavenly Lake in the holy mountain. It is also an opportunity for all the sects in the holy mountain. Everyone was shocked. Yin Sun asked excitedly, Little Nameless, what do you mean? Heavenly Lake in the holy mountain has always been the spiritual source of Heavenly Lake. However, the spiritual power in Heavenly Lake is much more than before. At this time tomorrow, Heavenly Lake's spiritual source will be fully revealed. The spiritual power released at that time will affect the whole holy mountain. This, Yin Sun's eyes widened. The spiritual power in Heavenly Lake is already very abundant. Can it still be increased? The sect leaders could not keep calm anymore. If what Little Nameless said is true, then the cultivation speed of the fighting soul will be greatly increased. The strength of the fighting soul will increase after the fusion of the soul and body. Then you can obtain more extraction scrolls faster. Is this for real? Lu Chen continued. This is indeed an opportunity for you, but at the same time, there is also a piece of unfortunate news. Devil Beast Sovereign has been reborn. With a clatter, someone's teacup fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Demonic Beast Sovereign. Nameless little friend. Are you talking about the legendary demonized winged dragon? Lu Chen frowned and said, I don't know what it is, but speaking of Yinglong, it does look like it. I wonder if you guys saw anything rushing out of the lake some time ago? Yin Sun recalled. Yes, but it was just a cloud of black gas. At that time, that cloud of black gas rushed out of the lake at an extremely fast speed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Nameless, you're not talking about that cloud of black gas, right? After fighting with the black gas, Lu Chen was very sure that he was talking about the black gas. Seeing Lu Chen's face darken, Yin Sun's heart sank. It seemed that it was very likely to be that thing. Lu Chen took a deep breath. A demonic beast that could only fight on par with a loose immortal. The pressure on him was not ordinary. Forget it. Let's not talk about this for now. After all, it should still be in its infancy. Now, you should prepare to move your sect. When the Heavenly Lake Spirit Vein reopens, this place will probably collapse. Such a strong impact? Lu Chen nodded. The situation at the bottom of the lake is much more terrifying than what you see. Prepare to move today. Oh, and immediately get people to move the civilians at the bottom of the mountain. Yin Sun immediately stood up and ordered the elders and disciples present to move quickly. Elder Xian was a little hesitant. Sect leader. What Nameless said, is it certain that it will happen? What I mean is, the Heavenly Lake is the foundation of our sect for thousands of years. Are we going to give it up just like that? Yin Sun narrowed his eyes slightly. For this kind of thing, it's better to believe it than not. If we are not prepared, then all the items in the sect will be destroyed. But if it doesn't happen, we can still come back. Moreover, let me ask you, if it was you, Could you stay under the heavenly lake for a month? Elder Xian was speechless. At that time, he also tried to go into the water, but the undercurrent was too strong and almost swallowed him. Nameless was able to escape unscathed after staying under the water for a month. Just this alone was enough to prove his strength. And he was the only one who saw the situation at the bottom of the lake. The shaking of the holy mountain was becoming more and more obvious. The situation Nameless said was very likely true. Right, Huang Xian, Yin Ling, the two of you go and inform the civilians at the bottom of the mountain. Stop them from leaving the holy mountain. Lu Chen looked at Yin Sun. This old man was not too stupid. He thought about it very thoroughly. It was not in vain for him to inform them in advance. And he also had a kind heart. He still remembered to inform the civilians. There was no time to lose. The entire holy mountain had already moved. The disciples packed up the items. The elders tidied up the sect's warehouse. And there were also people who went down the mountain to inform the civilians. The entire holy mountain was busy. That night, the disciples of the holy mountain had already gone down the mountain. They temporarily camped at another mountainside 1,000 meters away. In an instant, this nameless mountain was filled with flickering bonfires on the mountainside. One could vaguely see the figures of people moving around. Many disciples still did not know what was going on. The disciples were discussing it everywhere. Lu Chen did not stay with the disciples. Instead, he went to the area where the civilians were. The people here were still confused. But since the immortals said to move, they just followed. Suddenly, they were on the same mountain as the so-called immortals. These people were locked to the side. They did not dare to speak loudly or move around casually. They were very cautious. It had to be said that Lu Chen's fisherman's clothes and his ordinary appearance made it easy for him to blend in with the civilians. When he came, the people did not know that he was also an immortal. A few children were crying. They were frightened by their mother and stopped crying. Disturbing the immortals' rest was a terrible thing. Mom, why do we have to leave home? Don't talk too much. The immortals told us to leave, so we will leave. A sturdy farmer was educating a 5 or 6-year-old boy. At this moment, a man walked over and sat beside the child. Because it will become very dangerous over there. For these civilians, it must be very difficult to give up the family business that they had painstakingly accumulated. But with their low status, they did not dare to ask any questions. The farmer woman was about to say something, but when she saw the badge on Lu Chen's chest, she immediately widened her eyes and did not dare to make a sound. A child's words carried no harm. When the child saw Lu Chen, he was not too afraid. Uncle, there are immortals over there. They will protect us. Lu Chen stroked the child's hair and said with a smile, that is a disaster that even immortals cannot prevent. Moreover, you can't always rely on others for everything. Only when you become strong can you protect yourself. The little brat only understood half of it, but the farmer woman was scared half to death. Immortal, please forgive me. The child does not know anything. He is not blaming immortals. Lu Chen did not need to smile. Auntie, no need to be nervous. Auntie, the farmer woman almost thought that she was hallucinating. Immortals called her auntie? The immortals of the sacred mountain were not bad. But they would definitely not be so polite. This strange immortal did not seem to think that she was superior to others at all. Lu Chen sat beside them and looked back at the rumbling sacred mountain. Restart the fifth heaven? When the fifth heaven and the 5 great spirit veins were all restarted, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth would be abundant. Would these mortals also have the opportunity to become strong? Chapter 760. Once he completed the immortal level hidden mission, the fifth heaven would be reactivated. Lu Chen could not imagine what the fifth heaven would be like then. Surprisingly, Yin Ling was actually near the commoners' camp. She was distributing some food to the commoners. When she looked up, she happened to see Lu Chen chatting and laughing with the child. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. They actually bumped into each other here. Yin Ling was stunned when she saw that guy casually chatting with the mother and child from afar. Lu Chen's smile came from the bottom of his heart. He was different from all the other disciples. His conversation was very natural, and the other party did not feel pressured at all when talking to him. Gradually, the surrounding people also crowded over. Waves of laughter came from the crowd. This guy. Why do I feel like he's a different person when he competed with us? Yinling frowned. It was as if he was his true self now. Junior sister Yinling, what are you looking at? The sect master said that he wants to distribute the food. I really don't understand why. They have hands and feet. Why do they want me to distribute food to them personally? That's right. What's our status? What's their status? The sacred mountain is already very good to the commoners. Now we have to take care of them? I've never heard of this before. The discussion of the disciples beside her woke Yinling up. Yinling, there are still some people over there. Go distribute the food. I really don't want to stay here. Yinling nodded and walked toward the crowd. Lu Chen was listening to them talk about the dragon hunt. He was very curious about the dragon hunt. He wondered if a fifth heaven dragon hunt was considered a jungler. He heard from the villagers that there were many treasures on the demon beasts that immortals could use. If they could hunt one, the entire village would be able to eat for a long time. Lu Chen could not help but think of the dragon hunt village. At that moment, Yinling walked over with a basket of dry food in her hands. Immediately, someone respectfully took the food from Yinling and distributed it. Everyone was also hungry. They brought food to their families one after another. All of a sudden, Lu Chen was the only one left here. Seeing that there was no one to chat with, Lu Chen shook his head and got ready to leave. Hey, wait! Yinling called out to Lu Chen. Lu Chen turned his head curiously. What? Yinling didn't know what to say for a moment. She felt a little awkward. This person would rather chat with these mortals, but had nothing to say to immortal cultivators? What a strange person. Heavenly Lake. Thank you for saving everyone. Yinling finally spoke. Didn't you already thank me? That time, it was my grandfather who forced me. But don't think that I will think that you are a good person. You actually took the opportunity to molest me. I admit that I'm not a good person, but big sis, when did I ever take advantage of you? Lu Chen looked aggrieved. That was CPR. I saw that you were about to drown, so I gave you oxygen. I haven't even given you the cold shoulder yet. We're not that close, why are you drooling? You! Yinling's neck turned red. This guy's words were too infuriating. Oxygen. Yinling definitely had reason to think that Lu Chen was lying. At that time, not to mention giving her oxygen, she almost ran out of oxygen. Otherwise, she wouldn't have felt like she was suffocating. This guy hugged her twice, and even kissed her once. Just thinking about it made her feel disgusted. More importantly, he took advantage of her, and still didn't admit it. That was extremely disgusting. Yinling's feelings towards Lu Chen were too complicated. On one hand, she hated him, but on the other hand, she couldn't help but admire him. What she saw just now made her a little curious about this guy. In short, it was too complicated. You relied on that pearl to survive in Heavenly Lake? Lu Chen nodded. Yes. Yinling felt a little better. At least it meant that this guy wasn't much stronger than her. He just happened to have a treasure that could be used underwater. What did you talk to them about just now? I saw that they seemed to like chatting with you. Just casually chatting about their lives. I hope that the Holy Mountain will always treat them well like Senior Yen. Yinling was stunned. Other than her grandfather, this guy was the first person she met who would sympathize with the commoners. Yinling had been influenced by her grandfather since she was young. She couldn't help but agree with Lu Chen's words. What kind of person was this guy? He seemed to be different from the others. Lu Chen didn't want to be entangled with this woman anymore. He turned around and left, leaving Yinling standing there in a daze. As the #1 beauty in the Holy Mountain, which male disciple wouldn't be as beautiful as a flower when they were alone with her? This guy just left like that. I really hate him. Yinling said fiercely. The next afternoon, the ground in the direction of the Holy Mountain shook violently. Then, the Holy Mountain that had been sleeping for God knows how many years suddenly erupted. Immeasurable amounts of Heavenly Lake water poured out from the mouth of the mountain. Water pillars shot up into the sky. When the water fell, it instantly flooded the mountain. Seeing this scene, Everyone was so scared that their faces turned pale. If Nameless hadn't informed them in advance, they would still be in the sect. If that happened, not only would they die, but at least 70 to 80% of the sect's wealth would be washed away. The commoners at the foot of the mountain would also not be spared. Nameless brother, I really don't know how to thank you. Seeker was still in shock. He pulled Lu Chun and said. Lu Chun said seriously, there's no need to thank me. I hope that the Holy Mountain will continue to do what it is doing now. Don't be like the other sects that don't treat the commoners as humans. Seeker looked at Lu Chun in surprise. Was Nameless willing to help them, because he had always been kind to the commoners? Alright, with your strength, it won't be difficult to rebuild your sect. I should leave. Nameless brother, are you leaving now? Yes, I have other things to do. Seeker knew that he couldn't make Lu Chun stay, so he could only sigh. Well, with Nameless brother's strength, it's natural for you to explore the wider sky. However, you're only a 7-star cultivator now. The strength of your body is very important in the 5th layer. I suggest you go to a bigger city first, and get more cash extraction scrolls to improve your body's strength. Lu Chun of course knew this. Anyway, he still had a lot of spirit stones. He just needed to see if he could find cash extraction scrolls. As he spoke, Yen Sun took out a stack of cash withdrawal coupons and stuffed them into Lu Chun's hands. Brother John Doe, these are 50 100-point cash withdrawal coupons. You've saved our holy mountain from such a huge loss, and even saved Ling and the others. Lu Chun looked at the cash extraction scrolls, and his eyes lit up. He didn't hesitate, and accepted them without saying anything. Then I'll accept. He had helped the Holy Mountain Heavenly Lake a lot, so he accepted the cash extraction scrolls with a clear conscience. Yes. Nameless brother is really straightforward. Oh, by the way, Nameless brother, there's one more thing I want to ask you. Seeker leaned close to Lu Chun's ear and whispered, are you solipsistic brother? Lu Chun was quite surprised. He didn't expect Seeker to have thought of this. Basically, no one from the 4th layer would come to the 5th layer. Plus, Nameless fighting strength made it easy for Seeker to connect the two. Yes, Lu Chun didn't hide it anymore. Even if the entire Holy Mountain wanted to stop him, he was confident that he could escape. After Yen Sun got the answer, she didn't do anything. She just smiled at Lu Chun and said, I care about the world. Brother John Doe, I wish you a safe journey. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.